The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 142. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? It's Sunday.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
What is up?
Brian Manjoma.
Why is the first Flash film Flashpoint?
Oh, God. Don't get me started. Adam Vale.
What's up?
Making in just in the nick of time, Mr. Brett Murdoch.
I did. I literally just got here.
Fucking amazing. All right, man. How's everybody doing? Oh, my fucking God. I'm not going to get into that Flashpoint shit, man. And I'm also not going to get into me fighting off DCEU fanboys today. How do these guys find me? I don't get it. All right.
Dude, you know the secret about that check mark, right?
What?
You know what the thing does? When you say certain things, usually, and if you're on certain people's list, it usually throws your name at the top.
Yeah, but this was happening before I got that stupid check mark. Who are you? How did you find my account?
I don't know. I feel like they could also be just looking for like certain words like DCEU, and then they'll like essentially hone in on that stuff.
I think you might be right about that. Anyway, man, let's get into it. The return of Mr. Roman Ronan. All right, so his first question is, he goes, I read Tony's article about the Cammy costume, quote-unquote, controversy with Evo Live on ESPN. So if you were to pick an Evo head, so if you were an Evo head and you wanted to prove a point and say you think that was bad, watch this. Which fighting game and which character would you put on broadcast TV at next year's Evo? So he's basically asking, like, what character would you throw in there to really fuck with people?
Dead or Alive 2 and its fully glorious boob mechanics.
Yes.
Voldo from fucking Soul Calibur.
Here's the thing. Me and Roman Ronan or Tony, right? We were in a conversation on Facebook, and I said the same, like throw Voldo at these motherfuckers and see what would happen.
Yeah, right?
Dead or Alive in general, like just trigger everybody, just boobies everywhere, titties.
Yeah, if you turn like it, I wonder if Dead or Alive still has the boob age where you turn it to like 99 and they're just like blowing all over the place.
The fuck? I didn't even know they had that.
Yeah, and Dead or Alive and all the Dead or Alive 2. I don't know the Dead or Alive games since 2, the one for PlayStation 2. You could turn it would be like 30. It said at 8, like boob age 30, and then you turned it to 99, and then they're like flopping all over the place.
That's hilarious. Throw that in there,
Yeah.
Right. What other characters do we have?
They complain about Cammy. What about Rainbow Mika?
Well, she last year she caused controversy.
Oh, she caused it last year.
The funny thing about that whole situation is that I think we talked about it on the last show is that. Okay, Cammy was okay last year. Yeah. Rainbow Mika wasn't okay because she had a butthole and a boob hole. So now Cammy's not good. Even though she was fine last year.
My question is, did Cammy make it to the finals though? Because that's the sticking point. Remember, they don't broadcast the entire Evo thing. They only broadcast the finals.
They need to get over themselves. They're at fucking 10 o'clock at night. Number one, they show way more racy shit on ESPN than a digital character in a bathing suit.
It's a ridiculous controversy because, like, first of all, this is esports. If they don't broadcast it, we don't need you. TV is dead. Mm-hmm. Didn't ESPN just fire like over 100 broadcasters because the channel's shrinking? They're losing ratings. No one needs you, ESPN. So creating a controversy over a fighting game is not going to save your channel. Fuck your channel. I get my sports online anyway, so I don't fucking need them. You don't need ESPN. Fuck them.
I was gonna say also that maybe when we did that show, I was also thinking maybe it's because it was Disney too, because Disney does own ESPN. But even then, I don't know. It's kind of dopey.
It's we already went. We don't really need to go over this, and we already went through it on the last episode. But
yeah, like characters like like Voldo. I mean, I would put Urian in there. With his little mini thong. Make sure you make sure that his, just for the fuck of it, just make sure that you have like ball physics so they're like flopping all over the goddamn place. If we're gonna go for broke, everybody's gonna be all over the place.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that's honestly fair.
Why is that?
Okay, well, it's just because Manny touched on this, and I've got kind of basic issues with this argument that everybody wants to make. Dick and balls are not equivalent to breasts. It's not that way, and it's never been that way. You can't compare genitals to non-genitals.
No. Brett, before you go on, I 100% agree with you.
I agree.
But since these idiots see them that way,
I think everybody in here agrees. This is just a stickler point and this needs to be said to everybody else because, like. I'm just yelling at the internet as a whole right now. Like, and Manny and Chris and Carlos, I'm pretty sure everybody else will back me up. Boobs are a secondary human sex characteristic, the equivalent of which in men is large chest, shoulders, and neck, okay?
Yeah.
And yes, you do see guys running around without their shirt on. You do see most guys who have a chest the size of a fucking school bus. You do see hyper-exaggerated secondary sex characteristics in males as well as women, or as well as females, and in both the costume choices and physique build of both. So I just want to throw out there, I'm pretty sure I've said it before, but I'll say it again, these things are fucking equal. And every time somebody, and I know Manny was being facetious, but every time somebody comes back at me and is like, oh, well, we need to make a costume that has somebody's balls hanging out, it flips my mind a little bit because you're strawmanning to the very extreme.
But the thing is that's the way a pair of breasts are seen now. They're not seen as like just that secondary characteristic. They're seeing those as the equivalent to a sexual organ.
Yeah, but it's a false equivalence. That's Brett's point, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, no one's disagreeing with that, but I'm glad you've made it because a lot of people, they see them as the same thing. No, they're not. It's just fucking titties,
but the thing is that, like, if you think about it, like in those sorts of games, the male characters have way less clothing than the actual female characters. You want to talk about Cammy? Talk about that Urian guy. He's wearing urine or whatever.
Zangief Yeah, he's wearing a bikini briefs and a pair of boots.
Yeah. Gil.
Come on. Gil's practically wearing nothing. Seth is naked.
Seth is naked. So, I mean, you want to talk about nudity, and skin. The guys are like wearing nothing, but nobody, I'm going to say this, no guys usually complain about this. You know why? Because we don't fucking give a shit.
No man in the history of like mankind has ever like felt upset because another guy looked better than him. We don't give a fuck. We don't give a shit.
No, I don't feel sad. I don't feel sad that there's there's these these shapely dudes all over the place on ads and fucking video games. Who gives a shit? If those characters are a cool character, who gives a crap?
Well, no man has ever been offended over seeing another guy with big muscles.
I just realized, guys, like, just enjoy your games and stuff. Enjoy Evo. Enjoy fighting games. Don't let them manufacture controversy. Don't let guys like ESPN or Disney tell you how you're supposed to feel about this shit. Like, let ESPN die the slow death that it deserves in the name of progress. And enjoy your fighting games. Don't fall for the rope-a-dope, as Manny calls it. That's all this is. It's manufactured.
Exactly.
I agree with that. All right, man. Let's move on. Moving on. Okay, next one. It's not exactly video games, but it's still tied to it. He goes, my year has been pretty busy, so I've missed a lot of Coalition podcasts. I use an app on my tablet called Podbean that downloads the latest episodes of podcasts I follow. It keeps me up to date and ensures I have something to listen to in traffic. You guys ever think of using such a device, such a service? Here's the thing. Okay, me personally, and this is going to sound weird, I do not listen to gaming podcasts. I do 2 gaming podcasts every week. I'm kind of covered on the news, like when it comes to like gaming stuff, like on YouTube, I watch retro guys, like collectors. That's the shit I watch. I don't really like to watch or listen to podcasts. One, not only because I do it, but because I don't have time to do that anyway, you know? So I don't really do that. But something like Podbean, I definitely would have used back in the day. There was like some other shitty app I used on Android. Not saying Podbean is shitty, but there was like a I call it like an aggregate podcast app that basically grabs like streams of all your favorite podcasts into one. And I'm assuming that's what Podbean is, you know. So if that's how you listen to Throwdown, by all means do it. You know, that's great.
Doesn't the SoundCloud app do that too?
Yeah, it does. If you have the RSS feed or whatever, it does it, you know.
So yeah, just use well, I mean it's one more app, but we're on SoundCloud, so just use that, and you might be able to get the SoundCloud feed. It's an RSS feed, like Tony said, into Podbean. Just have it pull it in, you know.
So I mean, if you're asking us like if Throwdown going to be on Podbean, listen, we're already on SoundCloud. I'm just being honest. So just pick that, you know. And we're also on iTunes, obviously, which is like ubiquitous. Everybody pretty much has that. But I assumed Podbean would grab Throwdown if you put it in there. You know, I'm assuming there's going to be an option in there for that. I could be wrong, you know, but if it works the way that other app I use works, then it'll just grab any podcast you want as long as you have the RSS feed for it, you know. But me personally, I don't really listen to gaming podcasts, so I wouldn't use that. I don't listen to podcasts in general. It's too long. If I'm going to watch a video, it's got to be like a 5-10 minute long video. I'm not trying to be there for 5 hours watching shit, you know.
For me, I don't use anything like that, like to keep track of my podcasts. And the ones that I do, I only listen to a couple of them, and I kind of just use like a combination of like iTunes. Like sometimes like I have a couple of things that I'm subscribed to on iTunes, and I'll listen to those. Or I will go like sometimes if you know somebody. You know, like I usually watch the people that make the podcast, and they usually like, hey, we just uploaded a podcast. But I don't listen to like really game conversation podcasts like what we do on Throwdown. I listen to more developer podcasts where it's like they're talking about, you know, which I've mentioned before. I've listened to the Camouflage podcast or the Kojima Productions podcast, or I also tend to whenever the guys at the Codec do their podcast, because they usually do a lot of nice interviews with actors and stuff like that, and I dig that sort of stuff. But other than that, I don't really listen to other like gaming podcasts where people give their opinions, because I don't interact with the internet as much. You know, like I kind of don't really like pay much attention to, you know, like, you know, you have the guys like Game Grumps and all those guys out there. I don't really pay much attention to those guys, so I don't really feel the need to listen to what their opinions are about games. Yeah. But I also listen to the Coalition podcast as well, because they're our boys. So.
Yeah, like the co-op, I don't get to listen to like the full episodes, but I definitely at least listen to the first half. The thing is, they always record on Sundays, and usually around that time they go live is when I'm slightly kind of free, so I'll just leave it there for a little bit and chat with them in the chat room and stuff. I will just add a couple of things, because you know we're talking about gaming podcast. Most of the shit I listen to on YouTube, it's not gaming, it's actually comic book stuff. Mostly guys that are ripping Marvel apart. I enjoy that shit.
I listen to some gaming podcasts.
Should I feel sad because I am a Marvel employee? No, I don't.
Yeah. By the way, Manny, I just realized like during this conversation, you and I have something slightly in common. Like, okay, I'm a video game podcaster, right? I don't listen to other video game podcasts. You're a comic book artist. You don't read comic books.
I don't really look into much of the comic books these days. I mean, if anything, I usually kind of read European books, or because I feel like Europe and Japan have a lot more interesting varieties of things to go by, rather than, I'm going to say this, in the United States, it's very, because we have this stigma that comics are just about guys in fucking spandex.
So you're excited for finishing Siegfried then, huh?
What was that? Yes, hell fucking yes. Siegfried's an awesome book. Also, another book that I read was Skydoll, which is also an amazing book by and then a lot of, you know, Black Sad, just a lot of really fun books coming out from Europe and France.
Manny, can I have this opportunity on air to recommend to you Lock and Key?
Oh, I read that.
I was thinking
read all
about
those
reading.
seasons.
I was thinking about reading that. I do have the.
We had a
I have
whole
that on
episode
my
about
list.
that. Actually, remember
Yeah,
back
yeah.
in the day, like
Yeah,
when we
you
first had
can.
Red on Throwdown,
was-
like yeah.
And
Yeah, but anyway,
and,
before this
twice.
devolves into a comic book thing.
Yeah,
Hold on. Let Adam
Wait.
agree with me real quick.
Okay, Adam, go ahead and agree.
Yeah, no, it's a great series. They've had a few years, but then they got canceled twice, at least in post production for a TV series. I don't know why, because I think it's amazing. It would definitely carry over well into a
well, now since it's known that it's the son of Stephen King. Ooh.
All right.
You gotta respect that shit.
Anybody else in here? What services do you use to listen to podcasts on the go?
I use my iTunes. Oh, well, you can.
I generally listen to podcasts when I'm at home, and definitely not gaming ones. Like, because we were talking about that. Like, I'll listen to, my favorite used to be Harmontown, although I haven't listened to it in a while. But I specifically stay away from opinion podcasts on gaming because I don't want to have my opinions colored. I kind of like, just keeping up on the news. And I'll be honest, a lot of times I specifically, I don't check the show notes, and I don't get the show notes until I get here. I just kind of keep up what's going on during the week, and then I get to have an honest and earnest reaction to things more on air than having my opinions filtered and colored.
That's part of the reason why I kind of skim the show notes for our show, because I like to have that unpracticed reaction to whatever the question is.
By the way, you just gave the main reason I don't read other people's game reviews. I don't want their shit coloring my opinions, But obviously, since I cover gaming news, I have to be all up in it, But I could understand that. Again, like I said, when I'm off air and shit, I'm not listening to another fucking podcast, bro. I'm listening to other shit,
So, see, I don't get that part. That's just something I never understood when people said that, what you just said about, it's clouding my judgment. I mean, what about if you already listen to someone that you agree with and you know that you have a common view on things? Like,
well, if you are exposed to the thing and form your own opinion, and then, like, for instance, I have a very firm rule of I'll only watch 0 punctuation videos on games I either don't want to play or have already played, because I like to play them, form my own opinion, then see where I agree or disagree with Yahtzee, as opposed to going into something looking for these, tells of like, oh, this has been complained about, I'm looking for it. It gives me a more pessimistic approach. It lets me approach it with wide eyes.
With me, it's more like I'm afraid to read somebody's review and go, fuck, that's a good point. And I'm like, but I can't say that now because they said it in their review. So I'd rather go into my review just completely blind. And if I happen to say something somebody else said, it was because I just said it, not because I read it. I'm like, oh, that would be good. Let me throw that into my review. That's what I mean by tainting my shit. You know what I mean? Not really that it's going to affect my opinion. It's more like, damn, that's a good point. I should use that, but I don't want to do that. I want my shit to be original, as original as it could be.
But at least for like the opinions on certain things, most people's opinions don't actually affect my opinion, but I just don't, if I don't have any interest in that person, I don't really want to hear their opinion per se. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, Joe Schmo from down the street has 50,000 YouTube subscribers. Do I watch them? No. Do I give a shit about what he thinks about the Order 1886? No.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because that's the only reviews I do read, and you're gonna sense a pattern here. I read reviews from Gary, right? I read reviews from Richard. Read reviews from Max, guys I know. Shout out to the coalition, obviously. I read all their reviews because I know those guys. I know where they're coming from. I never understood. I know I'm derailing the fucking topic here, but I never understood reading reviews from somebody you don't fucking know. But anyway, let's get back.
If that's the case, then everything in life. I mean, when it comes to any product you ever buy.
But I don't read product reviews. I ask somebody that I know.
You just buy random shit.
I feel like when
it could be food, it could be clothes, it could be anything.
I feel like here's the thing: like if you have a trusted
read food reviews, you just said that.
Yeah, who reads food reviews? You go to the fucking
supermarket. People, what's the whole point of Yelp?
I never used Yelp a day in my life. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell Yelp is. Is it a dog yelling or something?
God, forget it.
Yeah. Anyway,
here's the thing. I again, when it comes to like those sorts of opinions, I usually stick. If I'm a watcher of this specific person. Like, let's say I'm, the ain't it cool guy, the Harry Knowles. Like, let's say I'm a big fan of Harry Knowles. Then I would like to hear what Harry Knowles has to say on his Harry Knowles podcast. Being that I don't care for anything he has to say, I don't want to listen to it. You know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing. It's the same thing with reviewers. It's like, okay, you kind of have your certain, like, I liken it back to when let's go back to like EGMs and stuff like that, right? You had those specific reviewers that you kind of liked reading their reviews to. Like Sushi X always put out a pretty decent one, and there was a couple of other guys in there that were like, okay, they have opinions that are pretty close to what I think. So I'm like, then that is a good way to kind of gauge, But other than that, I really don't. Again, if I don't have any interaction with these sorts of people, like as far as just being a listener or a fan, I don't really feel I need to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. All right. Podcast. What do you guys use?
iTunes. I use iTunes for my podcast. I listen to Giant Bomb. I've always listened to Giant Bomb since they started. I just enjoy the guys just bullshitting and talk, and just agree with a lot of the stuff that their views on gaming in general. Always been my thing with that. And then all the other ones pretty much are non-game related, like Last Podcast on the Left and My Favorite Murder and shit like that.
All right, Chris, what about you?
I either use the SoundCloud app, or I have an app called Downcast, which can grab from any RSS feed. It's pretty good. The desktop app is not so good, but the one on the phone is really good.
Yeah, see, and that's what I was assuming Podbean is like, but I don't know. Carl, so what about you, man?
So I use iTunes most of the part, but I don't even listen to gaming podcasts. Only like
just
co-op
podcasts in general.
Yeah, so I only like listen to mostly like sports related podcasts. So that's normally what I do. Yeah.
All right, Brian, what about you?
I just use YouTube, because I don't tend to listen to podcasts when I'm outside. Because I tend to either listen to music outside, or I'm watching a film on my phone, because I just don't like looking at random people.
I like that answer.
My skill.
If it's a podcast, you don't have to do the video; you do the audio. I don't watch any video podcast.
Yeah, but then I'll have to see them, okay, I'll have it in my ears, but then I also have look at something, and it's like, oh, let's look around inside this tiny metal tube. Okay, there's this asshole to my left and that asshole to my left. Okay, great. Well, if I'm watching something, then my attention is focused on that and on nothing else. So I don't see them; they're not in my world.
You know what I do? This is the New York thing. You just look at the ground, man.
Yep.
You don't look anybody in the eye, because in New York, you look at some motherfucker in the eye, and then they'll fucking pull a knife on your ass or some shit.
Yep.
So,
gotta be careful.
Or they start trying to talk to you or tell you how much they love Jesus. So
I'd rather take the knife in the back.
So you look down, or man, you pull up the sunglasses, pull those down, bam, nobody knows.
Yep.
You could be sleeping.
All right, let's move on here. Oh, quickly, guys, for you guys who are in the chat right now, feel free to ask us shit this week. We got plenty of space, so start sending stuff if you want to ask us shit. Okay, let's move on here to Mr. G Megaforce 123. So his first one is, do you think it would be a smart move for Amazon to buy GameStop? He goes, it's a crazy question, but Amazon could convert the physical store into their own, as they have planned to do, and acquiring GameStop would help them move forward in the gaming space they are working on getting into. There seems to be a lot of Amazon could do there, being that GameStop is failing and inevitably won't exist. Amazon could probably acquire them at a decent price.
Barnes & Noble owns GameStop.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
So, and Barnes & Noble, as you know, do not like Amazon. So I don't see them trying to.
Shit. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. I remember when I worked for them at Software Etc., my check said from Barnes & Noble. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And they were like, oh, yeah, they own us. Like,
and Barnes & Noble, by me, the closest one, there's a GameStop in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're started integrating them. Yeah, so that's not going to happen.
My thing is, why does Amazon need to buy GameStop? I think Amazon's doing pretty damn well on their own.
He's thinking about space, because how they did with the the food stores.
The Whole Foods.
The Whole Food stores. So I'm thinking he's thinking that if they buy like those shops, because they're already established locations, just slap an Amazon name on it, you know.
GameStop should go away.
It's well, okay. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, what would Amazon do differently with the brick and mortar store? I mean, so you're just basically saying it would be the same business model, same people most likely.
I think it would be like the eBay stores. Do you remember when those were a thing? eBay stores. They were eBay shops. Remember the 40-year-old virgin? His girlfriend worked at an eBay shop where you can order things and some things were there and some things would get dropped off there. And I think it'd be similar to that. Sort of also like a UPS store. You know, it's like, yeah, you order something on Amazon, but let's say you're not around, just go to an Amazon store and pick it up. It'll either get delivered there or maybe some items like their in-house stuff. They will sell there.
Kind of like their lockers too, like their Amazon lockers, but with the clerk there.
So basically what you're saying is instead of carrying 12 copies of Tekken, right, I carry 2 copies of Tekken, and the way that you get it from the store is if you walk in and buy it, it pretty much Prime ships a replacement to the store. So you have a brick and mortar store that doesn't utilize a lot of inventory and just relies on the Prime cycle, because the idea that like I already get 2 shipping, 3-day shipping, it comes in 2 days. So the only thing you could really get me better would be Prime discounts that I could go and pick up immediately. And then they would have to carry a whole bunch of inventory unless they just basically it were just a hub that Amazon shipped to that kept some of the most ordered stuff already on hand. Is that kind of the business model we're talking?
I honestly don't know. I honestly wouldn't know.
That's the only way I could see it working.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea.
Because there's no reason for me to go to a store if I could just get it in 2 days, unless I still like get my Amazon Prime discount, but now I can go pick it up or wait 2 days to have it delivered to my house. But even then, would a lot of you guys really then opt to go pick up that game? Especially like, and I know some of you have problems. I don't have problems with Amazon. Like if a game it gets released on a day, I usually get it that day. So
I have a problem with shipping.
Shipping is the problem.
Yeah, so maybe in areas where, shipping is slow like that, like, yeah, it might be decent, but I mean, Tony, in New York, like, getting around is a little bit different than it is in the rest of the country. So for those that don't know, like, how big of a chore is it for you to just, quote unquote, pop down to the local video game store?
For me, I could be there in 15 minutes.
Oh, really? So that's not that bad.
No, dude, take a bus, you're there. It's New York. It's easy to get everywhere,
But I think your issue and what he was saying was like with the UPS and with the leaving the package and shit. And if you miss it, you go to mass.
That's a bit that happened to me on fucking twice this week. These idiots FedEx, they're like, oh, no one was home. I'm like, I didn't leave the crib. What are you talking about? So
they don't knock, they don't do anything. They just don't want to deal with it. So they're like, yeah, I went by there.
I got to go to the fucking local office tomorrow to pick my shit up, But my problem is, and with Amazon, they always deliver my fucking games like 2 days later than they're supposed to. This is for new games. If I order like a game that came out like months ago, it'll come in 2 days, with no problems. But if it's a game I pre-ordered months ago, it'll still be fucking late.
See, okay, and this is where I kind of went to that business model. So what I think is the problem in this is that Amazon has certain distribution centers that also act as warehouses, right? So because my Amazon distribution center might have that item in stock, that's how they get it anywhere in 2 days, right? Because there's a stock sitting at every distribution center. So while my distribution center may still have stock, yours may run out and take longer to get to you. That's why I've never had problems with Amazon and you've had problems with Amazon. So if you take that idea of a distribution center that holds a small inventory, you could turn the GameStops into smaller versions of those. But I guess my point is, like, I don't understand why. What would it take in this hypothetical for any of you to actually use this brick and mortar Amazon store?
Nah, I don't see the point.
If you could go in and get a video game for $50 instead of $60, okay, maybe.
But if I could also get it from Amazon, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm not dogging it. I just don't see any avenue in which this is actually necessary, useful, or helpful. So I guess I am dogging it.
Yeah, I just don't fucking get it. I don't see the point. That's my thing.
Does anybody?
Yeah.
No, I don't see the point either.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I think we talked about this enough. And the next one here is: do you think Nintendo is going to go the hybrid route next generation? And if not, what do you think the next Nintendo gimmick will be?
New a new Switch, the Switch 2.
Yeah. So you think they're gonna be hybrid from now on? The next Nintendo console, it's gonna be hybrid.
Oh yeah, I don't think Nintendo can win a console race. I think that they've been successful in handhelds for a long time, so they pretty much dominate that market. And I seriously think that they're just going to merge both of those into one successful market, and then hold on to that. And as long as they can give you an experience superior to that which you can get on your phone or a Kindle, anything, to a certain extent, even an iPad, because Apple's not good about gaming. So as long as Apple is in the prime top of the pyramid.
Oh, you're cutting out, man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think tablet gaming is really going to take off, especially because there's no physical input controller. So,
Tony, do you have that report?
Gaming's already taken off.
Yeah. Do you have that report that it announces this is like the highest sales that they've had ever for like mobile gaming?
No. I'm not saying it's not money generating. Pachinko is money generating. What I'm saying is there's a niche of narrative and skill heavy games. Your Call of Duty, your platformers, your Horizons, your things like that no matter how much casual gaming, it's casual gaming and standard, or I guess hardcore gaming, they've always been two separate audiences. The person who generally plays Bubble Bobble is not the person who's interested in Horizon. And no matter how much money, or whatever Candy Crush makes, people are still going to be wanting Horizon. So there's still going to be a market for that. And I don't ever see the iPad infringing on the AAA game market. I don't see, if there was a company besides Apple pushing these and at the top of the pyramid, we might be able to make a case. If Microsoft, if their tablet, if the Surface Pro were the standard, you might see them come out with a way to hook up your Xbox controller to your Surface Pro, and then you might see way more tablet gaming. But
Brett, don't you think that the success of iPad gaming and iPhone gaming has infringed on the success of the Vita?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Do you think that the success of like mobile gaming on iPad and iOS and Android has infringed on the success of the Vita?
Hello. I guess Brett doesn't want to answer the question.
I think it absolutely did. I mean, it changed it. I mean, people just moved away. I think for a lot of people that did buy those type of handhelds, just wanted a mobile gaming experience. And then if they have it on their phone and shit or a tablet, they're like, oh, fuck it, I'll just do this.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think a lot of the people that would have otherwise bought a Vita or maybe a 3DS, they were like, oh, fuck, do I need that shit for? I have my phone now.
I'll just play this fucking bullshit game here. This will satisfy that itch of playing something on the go.
Yeah, so going back to the question, like Nintendo has doubled down on successful and failure, failing strategies. So I wouldn't doubt them doubling down on this Switch concept again.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sorry, I'm back. What was the question now?
The question was, do you think was it actually Carlos? You asked the question. You were the one asking it originally.
Yeah. Do you think that that mobile gaming like iPad and iOS and Android gaming infringed on the success of the Vita?
I don't personally. I mean, maybe a little bit because no, I actually don't, because you don't see a lot of true games for any Apple product. Apple has never truly supported gaming. They've never really gone out of their way to try and foster it. I think the Vita was honestly beaten by Nintendo, as much as I hate to say it. And I was really mad about that when it happened, because the Vita was in every way a superior handheld. But Nintendo, I don't know, put crack in their DSs.
But Nintendo was superior in every mobile generation. Like the PSP didn't win that generation. I'm
speaking strictly hardware. the hardware, the machine hardware that was the Vita was superior to the DS.
I think it was CNET or Wired or something did an interview a long time ago talking about like when it came to handhelds and mobile devices and things you want to carry, and everyone agreed they just want to carry one device.
Yeah, Brett, you weren't here for this part, but Adam and I pretty much agreed that mobile gaming did hurt the Vita because people were like, "Why the fuck do I need a Vita when I got shit on my phone?"
Yeah, and then it's just carrying one device. That's one of the things that Apple did realize when they decided to make the iPhone, and they were like, you know what, we're putting the iPad in the iPhone. I mean, the iPod in the iPhone. It's one device that does it. And people just.
All right, last thing, and then we got to get back to the actual question. Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that. Let me ask you this: of all the Vita owners here, how many of you guys mobile game often?
I don't mobile game at all. Fuck that shit.
I do. I still do, but I do my original 1989.
It's not real gaming, man.
Mobile game bag that I carry.
I despise mobile gaming, man. That thing is fucking bullshit.
Do you count fantasy football?
Huh?
Well, no. I'm talking about
what? Did I count fantasy football? What?
I'm talking about phone games. Like there are a bunch of people. Just about everybody here owns a Vita.
Once in a while, I'll play Hearthstone on my phone.
Fuck no.
Okay, Hearthstone, I get. But for the most part.
There's a couple of games I did play for it, like Framed, which is a really great game, and I also played Republic on iPhone as well.
Okay,
but it's a very small like selection of games that I've ever played. Oh yeah, and Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery, which was like a point and click adventure.
Dude, I'm forgetting the name of the fucking game. It was
Go Danger also.
Wasn't it? It was like a hack and slash game. It was almost like Punch Out, but with knights and shit. And Epic made the game.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
It's the one and only mobile game I play. I'm like, this is fucking horse shit. Who wants to play? Like, you can't even see the screen because their hands are all in front of it. I'm like, this is garbage.
Exactly. Okay, and here's my point. If Apple had done two things: one, supported and nurtured their devices an actual gaming platform, and just instead of just throwing it to the wolves and said, yeah, I guess you guys can make games for it or whatever. Like they've never supported it. They've just kind of accepted it because it's been wanted and people have made games for it. Like I'm talking about, they could actually pour some money into development of games and try and follow the way of Valve. And two, have some kind of hardware accessory. I hate to say it like this, but similar to the Joy-Con that snaps on to the phone, or the phone slides into a controller or something like that. Real gamers want real gaming controllers. I mean, even the Switch, it just barely fucking counts. Everybody says, the Joy-Cons are too small, they feel a little weird, it's not a proper gaming controller. This goes double, triple, quadruple for the fact that a lot of cell phone and tablet games, you have no tactical response because you're pressing buttons that are on a touch screen. So certain games work well for it, other games don't. Like, I don't think that you'll ever be able to play Horizon on your iPad mini and actually have it be an experience anything similar to what it would be on the PlayStation, which is, I kind of think, where Nintendo hit the mark on that, where they're like, okay, we have a portable gaming solution that still kind of feels like you are playing a real video game, and you're gonna get a shitty battery life. And that's pretty much the main drawback that you're going to get. But it's going to be prettier than most of your cell phone games. You're going to have actual physical input. You'll be able to play multiplayer. So I think that's kind of the sweet spot. And I don't think that will ever go away. I think somebody is always going to want, and it may not even be a handheld. It may just be like, the equivalent, or what the idea of the GameCube was, just a 3 to 4 inch box that has a USB and an HDMI plug into it, just something that is mobile and gaming friendly. You may see people people could probably get away with playing the type of games that mobile games are on the bus or on the train, or when you have 15 or 20 minutes. One of the things I really noticed that's different about this Zelda is all the little mini shrines, and that's to break the game down into bite-sized chunks. So there is something to be said about game design there. I have trouble finding a lot of time to sit down and play Disgaea for 2 hours when I've got my console, on the go with me. So it depends on whether you're talking about a bite-sized experience or a real gaming experience. So you will probably get to the point where you have satisfactory bite-sized experiences for things like, short car trips, bus rides, things like that. But also people are going to want something a little bit more substantial for like road trips, international flights, if you travel a lot for work, something you can set up in a hotel for people with medical issues. And this has been a shocking one for me. Like, I've actually didn't realize how big a deal this was until I've seen so many reports about the Switch. Like, there's lots of people that blood transfusions, chemo, just general doctor's visits, things like that, where people are bedridden or stuck in the hospital for days on end. The Switch is a lifesaver. And so for those longer gaming sessions, but where you're still not in your living room, I think that hits a sweet spot. So I don't think that will ever go away. I think that you'll definitely start to see smart devices catching up to your bite-sized gaming experience, but there will always be at least a small market for true gaming experience that is also portable. And,
right,
and Nintendo has been right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, just to dovetail it back to the main question here. So you think because of that, Nintendo will stick with the hybrid thing?
I absolutely do, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they found success in that market. This is exactly what the blue ocean strategy. Well, no, this is kind of the opposite. They have a market that they pretty well have cornered. It is a niche market, but it is people that want to not play necessarily cell phone games, but they don't necessarily need their console they have at home. They have a need to have a portable gaming experience for a moderate amount of time, and because that's what's kept Nintendo afloat. Let's be honest, for the last two generations, it wasn't the Wii, it wasn't the tail end of the Wii sales or the Wii U that has kept Nintendo able to, not flounder and go belly up. It's been entirely their handheld market that's been letting them thrive for the last couple of years. So that says to me that there is enough of a market, and there is enough people to want to do this. And I don't think that they have the game to rush back into a crowded console market. So just like I've been saying from the very beginning, before the Switch came out, I want to remind people, this is Nintendo is doing everything but admitting failure and scuttling back into the market where they are successful and doubling down there, which is not a bad business strategy, but I think that it means that they will be at least semi-portable from here on out, because they're not going to try and run with the big dogs in terms of AAA powerhouse consoles.
All right, Chris, get in here, man. What do you think Nintendo's going to do with the next system?
They're going to stick with this because they have a history of doing so, and this has been successful so far. The only reason that they haven't been actually doing better with the demand of the Switch is because of the NAND shortages happening in China right now and Taiwan. Like, there isn't enough parts to go around, and Apple is cornering the parts. So there's a lot of manufacturing shortages, not just them. There's other companies reporting these type of shortages, and as a result, if you look at component prices, like look for an SSD drive or the Intel M2 or all that stuff, the prices are going up because of these shortages. So Nintendo's suffering. Not actually, this is not a cause of their artificial scarcity. This is actually actual scarcity.
Yeah.
On top of artificial scarcity, let's not give them a free pass here. No, I can't believe I just said that to Chris.
Yeah, see, so I'm giving them a little more credit because there is an actual shortage. And so they have found success in here. They will keep doing it until it doesn't work, which is what we saw with the Wii and Wii U. They doubled down on gimmick strategy, and the successor to the Wii was a complete failure. This is working well for them, the Switch, so they'll enhance it. They'll keep going with it, and they can't play in the big boy pool, with PS4 Pro because Microsoft and Sony are willing to invest in power, right? Xbox One X, all that research and design went into just squeezing as much power as they could out of the Jaguar architecture, and that's what they've done. Yeah.
With the problems that we've seen in Nintendo's manufacturing, are we seeing a lack of ability? How do I put this? Because Microsoft and Sony are big companies, they can leverage that power to buy in bulk and get discount prices, which drive down the cost of their systems. It seems to me that Nintendo doesn't have a strong hold on their manufacturing process, so even if they wanted to, they couldn't price compete with the bigger companies because they don't have the leverage that they do. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. They can't. They don't have as much muscle in that manufacturing arm. Like, if Apple wanted to, they could buy all of Foxconn, right? And Microsoft could buy a good chunk. If they wanted to make new fabs, that's not a problem. They have Surface fabs. They have all sorts of fabs. So expanding Xbox is not a problem. They have the capital to throw around. Sony has been manufacturing electronics just longer than Nintendo has. Let's be real. Sony's main bread and butter is as an electronics company. I know a lot of people don't remember that. They made the Walkman and all that stuff. They've been around for a long time. When Nintendo was still making toys, Sony was making electronics. So they, while many companies have moved their manufacturing to China, because China has cornered the market on rare earths, which we need for circuit boards and things like that, they still have the capital to throw around and the clout to do so. So yeah, you're right about that, Brett. Nintendo doesn't have that ability, so they will lose out in terms of resource management.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody disagree that Nintendo isn't going to go down the Switch route? Because I think they are. They're gonna. If it works for them, they're gonna do it again. You know.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to throw in though that I think this is the least gimmicky gimmick they've ever done, which is why I think it's one of the more successful systems they've had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, compared to the fucking Wii and Wii U, it is less gimmicky, you know, because you're still, you know, getting a console, you're still getting a handheld. It's not some crazy, you know.
Well, I appreciate not having the Joy-Con shoved down my throat. It's not like, here's another game that uses the Joy-Con. Like, I don't fucking care. They know I have a Pro Controller. They've just given up on trying to shovel that shit down my throat.
I think the only thing that would turn it back to a gimmick is if people start seeing these third-party games coming in real short-changing them. You know, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you're saying you're this version like the other ones. You're really not. You're having nothing to do with the other one. So if they start seeing that, then they're going to put it in its own category as like, well, this isn't really on par. Forget about just the graphics. We're talking about not having the complete game.
Also, I really wish they'd noticed the difference between the sales in Zelda and 1-2 Switch and what that clearly states about what people want. Like, no, we want a video game, not this bullshit. Asterix, I would like WarioWare.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, man. Let's move on here to Mr. Black Metal Gamer. So,
oh yeah, I got to talk about him.
Yeah, this is a funny one, by the way. He goes, for the kids of the gaming future, where do you think the retro market will be at, and do you think they will even care about old games? Do you see 360 or PS3 games being highly collectible in 15 to 20 years? Okay, two-part question. I want to go to the second part first. This is something I've talked about before, and I want to get off my chest. Think about it like this, right? You could buy an old copy of Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, whatever, right? Pop it into your system and it works just fine. What happens in 20 years when you buy Fallout 3 and you can't fucking update that shit because the servers are down? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know if these games are going to be so collectible because they require so many patches and all this other bullshit that you can't just play them off the disc anymore.
You know, they'll be collectible. They'll be resold digitally.
Yeah, but not only that, people are still wanting just for that fact. They're like, oh, you know what? I don't care about playing it. I just want to have it because I know
what it is, even though the game is barely.
Yeah, there's tons of games like that. I mean, some of the most sought after games for like Super NES and NES are the worst ones, the really bad ones.
Yeah, but they all work. Like,
they all work. They all work.
They all work. Even the worst game works. Like if you take a game, if you take Street Fighter V, fast forward 20 years and put that disc in, the game isn't on there. There really isn't anything on that disc. So if there's no PSN on Xbox Live in 15 to 20 years, you can't play that game.
Keep in mind, some games are only compatible with certain software updates on the PlayStation.
Right.
So
not to mention, magnetic drives don't last very long. So you pull out your PS4 in 20 years, bury it and pull it out and plug it in and see if it works. It probably won't.
Oh, well, what about some of the games that needed a battery? I mean, you would have to take it apart and replace the battery.
Yeah, side of the battery. Okay, so go hard drive on the PS4, and then don't have PSN to be able to put in the new system software or anything else, right? The console is worthless without the ability to connect to a network and update it. So you have to hope that those networks are still working far into the future.
Yeah, but let's look at the motivation here. Would they be more motivated to put a bunch of money in to maintain an archaic plate to let people play games that they have already bought, or would they just resell them to you at an insane price, even though it's a 20-year-old game?
But that would kill the collector's market. See,
there will be no collector's market. It'll all be digital.
But that kills that whole culture is dead. Then it's just a corporate thing. It's just reselling nostalgia over and over again. But then what we think of, like when I go to a retro games show, I'm buying a game from a dude. I don't know him. He found this shit in his basement from 30 years ago, you know? And I buy the game, I clean it, and it works, you know? Or like Adam said, like maybe the battery's dead, so I take it out, desolder it, put in a new battery, you know? But it works when I do that. Like you do this in the future, like you said, it's through Sony or Microsoft or whoever buys Sony or Microsoft in the future. Maybe Disney owns everything in 15
Yeah,
to 20 years.
exactly.
I don't know.
Who's going to be owning these fucking servers in the future? You know?
So I don't know this shit's gonna work. So I'm gonna have to buy the Disney box, and they go, here, go into classic mode and play your PlayStation games, right? So it's all controlled to them, and that would suck.
You could also keep in mind there are a lot of people that are being raised with coding, so you might see in the future, like, you know, people like having the equivalent of a Pi or an Ouya that's or even a PSP or something like that, like one of these systems that can be jailbroken. And then, you know, have you know, these, or they'll just find a way, like you'll plug, you know, you'll have to get an old school PS2, and then you'll have to plug into this, and you'll have to pull certain drivers off the internet and insert them into here, and then, you know, combine the things. Like we may.
To be fair, PS2 games will probably be okay for the future. It's the 360 and PS3 games.
Yeah, everything after that generation, PS2 and OG Xbox and GameCube would be fine. Everything after that is screwed. Even the Wii is fine because it didn't really need a network for that.
Yeah, that's right.
PS4 will be the worst.
Yes, the current gen.
It'll be just as bad as last gen.
Yeah. Although
this generation would be worse. Actually, I think you're right about that, because and think about it like this, right? So many.
Well, wait. Because remember, the Game of the Year editions usually come out, and then those have all the patches and everything.
Yeah, but people no. Here's the thing: Game of the Year editions, you still need to download all that shit. What if
not all of them. The Fallout one you didn't.
Most of them you do. Every Game of the edition that I bought, I had to download everything. So I'm like, there's nothing on this fucking disc. So imagine trying to play that game 20 years from now. You know. That's what I'm saying. Like I
imagine you will be, but there will have to be like an interface. Like you will probably have to have a laptop plugged in and be running, you know, inserting like a certain chunk of script to be able to work around it, or you'll have to be able to have full command over the middleware.
So you're gonna have to go to like another person to do this for you. Most people aren't gonna know how to do this.
Dude, in 20 years, like they're already teaching coding in schools. Like this will be we've said this before. There's no saying
stupider every day.
Just because they teach coding in school doesn't mean exactly that everybody's going to be using coding.
Exactly.
They also teach science in fucking school too. How many dumbasses do we know out there?
We have idiots. I think the moon landing was fake. You know, come on, man.
Okay, here's my point. By owning an NES and a Genesis and a SNES and a VCR and all these other things, like I can hook up a speaker system blindfolded in 5 minutes flat. I can open up and do basic soldering repairs on any of like you know, the idea of opening a game to replace a battery.
Yeah,
that is
Brett,
probably
that's you.
Brett,
that's you, man. That's you. You're intellectually curious. You critically think. That's you. That's what we're saying. Like this generation now, they can't even wipe their ass. They're so goddamn useless. Like they're not going to learn coding. They're not going to solder anything. They're not going to learn how to, you know, take a soldering iron or the fundamentals of algorithms or lambda calculus or any of that. They're not going to do any of that. They don't even know how to use fabric softener. So
you don't think if these are like retro game geeks that they would learn that stuff?
But that's a very, very small part. Again, yes, people who would be intellectually curious who would go, oh shit, I want to learn this, so I'm going to get these books on these things and practice programming, and oh, I don't understand this, so let me dig deeper. That's like a very, very.
I mean, but the thing is that, but then you're going into like, if you, because of that, you're going into a whole different section of things. You don't need to know calculus or any of that to own a Nintendo game, a PlayStation game, or even a PlayStation 2 or Xbox.
That's right.
The original Xbox or those versions of those games.
Once you buy the games, you put them in your machine, and that's it. You know.
Once you start hitting the generation of PS3 and Xbox 360, you're already talking about old software and stuff and updates and all that other shit. So what are we gonna do? Is there somebody out there archiving all the updates to a fucking PlayStation or Xbox? No fucking way.
He's gonna pop out. I have the vault with the updates.
Yeah, I have the vault with all the updates. No, they're not, because all those networks are all closed down. We're talking 20 years later. You know, fucking SquareSoft had to fucking redevelop fucking Kingdom Hearts from scratch because they lost the goddamn code to the game.
Yeah, they created it.
Manny, you gotta, you're crazing again over there. Just come dip out. Yeah, that's a great point.
Wait, I'm turning into a robot?
No, Manny's turning to a robot. Yeah, Manny, just leave and come back. But he brings up a good point. Think about this. Okay, even if you have somebody who's like intellectually curious that wants to go into this coding shit, they're gonna have to be coding old ass fucking games.
No. Okay,
learn this whole new language.
I think this is way too much. Look at the ROM community right now. You can't just throw a ROM like it. I remember the reason I got my first PSP was to jailbreak it, unlock it, and throw a bunch of ROMs on it, and that was a huge thing with a lot of people. And the ROM community is still actually fairly active, and that shit gets fucking complicated. So, like, I imagine that the same way you need to have a startup program for the ROM installed and you have to do things in a certain sequence, like, I think that's all retro gaming will turn into. You'll go online, you'll find, service pack, blah-de-blah, and you'll probably have to reinstall the operating system and roll it backwards or roll it forward to make sure it's compatible, and then start an interim program that actually starts and makes the PlayStation think that it's connected to the PlayStation Network, filing in certain jailbroken codes that makes it look like it's from PlayStation Network, and then your game will start. There will be definitely extra steps, but I don't for the simple reason that the ROM community is still around makes me believe that there will be something similar for these. It will be incredibly niche. It will be incredibly dorky. Like, it'll be like the hardcore nerds of the hardcore nerds.
Yeah,
but I don't think it'll disappear completely.
Yeah, well, like I said, a tiny, small community. Like guys like Adam, who he did my PSP, right? Like, you have to know someone like that, or be willing to learn all that shit and take the chances to hack and mod and refine all this retro stuff. And remember, games are big now. Like, ROMs for old games, they're small.
Yeah,
that's true.
Megabyte files. Like, you have gigabyte files. You have a mess of a game like Fallout or Skyrim, right? That's been modded to high hell. Go figure that out. You're gonna need like 40 or 50 friends to fucking.
You got a good point. Don't they still have problems doing ROMs on like original Xbox games?
I mean, yeah, and they're getting more and more complex all the time. And like you said, but even though they're teaching coding things, they're teaching surface coding. So the stuff like Brian would have learned, or Carlos, or me, or we learned in computer science, they don't teach that stuff. They're only teaching, go program in Unity, go learn Unreal Engine. These are high-level abstractions of programming. They're not learning the math that goes into it or the basics. They're not learning about assembler, how CPUs work. They're not learning any of that. They're learning surface
language.
Yeah, so they're not even learning C++ or like not even that high level. They're above.
Tell me they know how to use DOS. They at least know how to use DOS, right?
No, they don't teach
really?
DOS.
Okay, I take it back. Fuck it.
They get a canned IDE. They get Visual Studio, and that they never touch DOS. They're not touching that stuff.
Brian, what were you saying, man?
Brett, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I totally get your enthusiasm. But again, as everyone here has said, the main problem is that there's too many retarded people out there. I mean, there's people out there that think that assembly language is pretty much binary, which is not true.
The ironic part is there's a reason why the name is assembly in the first place.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you. By the way, I think we kind of covered both parts of the question nicely. So yeah, do you think there's still going to be like a retro scene? I think there still will be for like older games for sure. I even hope that some of the younger guys get into it. Like, hey, I want to check out these old ass games. Here's the thing. I watch. You guys probably know Metal Jesus, right? A lot of the people that he has on his show are definitely like 20 years younger than him, and they're getting into Saturns and all this other old shit. I'm like, okay, there might be some hope there, I'm probably going to become even smaller than it is now, but I think there's going to be some like gamers who are like, hey, I want to try this old shit. I want to see what that's about. I want to buy a CRTV, see what's going on. I'm going to play like the way they did. Not a lot of people, but some of them,
Retro indie games like Shovel Knight have come back, and they've we all grew up being like, okay.
Hold on. How are you going to get Shovel Knight 20 years from now?
You'll probably play it on a ROM. But no, the point I was making was that suddenly there's this resurgence in platformers and retro graphics and things like that, and that has pulled off the when old folks like Tony and a lot of the rest of us were growing up, when a game got dated, a lot of times you're kind of like, this game kind of looks like crap. And so it was always like this Cold War race towards better graphics. And then this thing happened in the PC community where indie games started coming up with fairly raw graphics, and people started realizing that graphics didn't make the game. And that in turn pulled off that kind of gateway that locked away a lot of older games. So people don't approach Castlevania now thinking that it looks dated because it looks the same as Shovel Knight, which is a new game to them.
That's a good point.
So I think especially like the old 8-bit games, like they will probably be bigger in 20 years than they are now, because they'll be mixed in with like, and in 20 years people won't know like, oh, Mega Man came out like 20 years before Shovel Knight. They'll be like, oh really, they both kind of look the same, like that, and we'll all be rolling our eyes so hard they fucking fall out of our skull. But I think the graphic barrier has been pulled off with the rise of indie games, and that legitimizes older games to stay relevant for longer.
It's like, did you know Nine Inch Nails did a cover of Johnny Cash's Hurt?
Wait, Adam, you first, and then Manny. Go ahead.
I was just going along with how people are going to see things, and we're like, oh, did you know that Nine Inch Nails did a cover of Johnny Cash's Hurt?
Oh my God!
They know.
I'm looking at you, bro.
That's it. People are going to say that shit.
I feel like with a lot of the retro games in general, they age better. Like we're talking like all the Nintendo games and all those things, they kind of age better because they had a limited style that they could work with. I feel like those PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation era is a really rough area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when we first started trying to learn to use polygons and didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Yeah, like some of those games, like I feel like Virtua Fighter still holds up because they went with a stylistic choice on that, where it's like that kind of blocky thing. But like, yeah, some of those games are just rough as hell. You play Battle Arena Toshinden now, you're like, oh god.
Do you guys remember clipping issues? This is something I don't know if young gamers remember, but do you remember entire like arms would clip through armor? Like a guy's arm would go through his thigh, and you just kind of shrugged it off because it wasn't a big deal. Now somebody's cape waves through their leg, you're like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, where's the collision detection on the character model? But like,
or the fact, or when they didn't know how to make a continuous model where every single part of a character was essentially a different 3D object that was placed in there. So you'd say like you look at a game like Metal Gear or Resident Evil, where they literally had like different parts for different parts of their bodies, and they were like jiggering around.
Oh yes. Oh, remember Final Fantasy VII's quote unquote hands?
Yes, which they didn't have hands; they had tubes.
They're like a meatball with a leather cover over it.
Yeah, or and again, we were talking about Resident Evil, where they literally had cups. They had like cupped hands. They were like this. So, yeah, I did have, again, to go back into the topic. I feel like it's going to be a difficult run for PlayStation 2 era, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, unless the actual companies do a good job of archiving these things. Maybe later and maybe in the future, I don't know if we're going to be still using the same architecture.
Yeah, so
as far as that stuff, I definitely think we're not going to be using the same architecture. So that means that, like,
well, that's where the emulation comes.
That means that preserving these games is going to be even more difficult now than it is just buying a cartridge at a store or a CD.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, I'm kind of seeing it as like, people buying the originals. That's where I'm kind of coming at it from. I believe that all the big classic games from now, or that will be considered classics, are all going to be re-released. I'm really talking more about the old stuff. But Chris, I want to ask you this question, because you and I talked about this a lot. Okay, because we know how buying retro games now is becoming really fucking expensive. How do you think it's going to be 20 years from now trying to buy a Nintendo game?
Oh, it's going to be even worse, because like what's going to happen is, like, because of companies like Hyperkin and stuff, you can still play. You don't need to own an original Super Nintendo, right? So that's driving up the price of having an original system. So what Hyperkin and all these guys have done, they made very fancy emulators that you could push an original cartridge into and play the games, right? So what's going to happen is eventually all the original consoles and stuff, eventually their parts are going to fail, right? Those parts wear out at some point. So that's going to drive up those costs. Also, those carts are going to wear out, and those are going to drive the prices up of those. So yeah, you're looking at a collectible market that is constantly going to inflate in value just because the amount of it is going to decrease naturally because of parts decaying. You know, carts won't work. Super Nintendos will start failing. Fuses blew out. I mean, my buddy Mike, you remember Mike?
Yeah.
One day we put together his Master System. He brought it down. We plugged it in. That shit burnt out, almost caught on fire.
Shit.
Yeah, you're gonna get more and more of that. You're gonna plug in your old system. Oh man, I'm gonna fire up like Castlevania, and then your power supply burns out or something burns out, and the system is dead. You know.
Wow.
The funny thing,
plastic dry rotting.
The funny thing about that, what happened to you and Mike, is actually a common issue with that original Master System, where they used cheap this specific thing that it's really cheap inside of it. So what you have to do is actually you have to replace that thing with a better part.
Yeah,
you know what's the giant irony here is Nintendo actually built such quality systems back in the day that a lot of them are still fucking kicking. Like you could take a hammer to a SNES back in my day and like I don't know what they made that shit out of, but you drop it down the stairs, didn't fucking matter. Like it was almost damn near impossible to break a Super Nintendo. Nintendos were much easier to break.
Also, all the way till now, I don't know how if the fixing policy is on a lot of the Super Nintendos, but I know that for years and years after they released their consoles, you could send a Nintendo console back, and Nintendo would fix them if they still had the parts.
Yeah, I don't know if they do that.
Yeah, you guys like those parts are getting scarce.
Can you imagine in 20 years what a mint inbox, still saran wrapped or still cellophane wrapped Super Nintendo would go for? I mean, that would just
games, bro. Like imagine like the gold fucking whatchamacallit, Legend of
Zelda. Oh, I got mine. I got mine, bitches.
This story happened this week. Basically, Chris, what's the name of that game? Track and Field or something like that? You know what I'm talking about.
On the one with the pad. I had the pad.
It's a Nintendo game. It sold this week a mint copy, right? Sold in a shrink wrap, $42,000.
Yeah, it's probably winter games.
Winter games, that's it. Because they only made a small, like, few of those games, right? Yep. $42,000 fucking dollars. Imagine that shit in 20 years, you know? That exact copy, you know? Because you know it's still going to be floating around, you know? It's crazy.
There's somebody sitting there looking at an NES still wrapped in plastic, just rubbing their hands together and be like, one day.
Oh, they're right. Yeah, just sit on that, man.
Yeah, sit on all your retro shit. It's going to be crazy in the future, you know? All right, let's move on here. This is a fun one. What is some of the weirdest shit you've ever played? For me, it's Cho Aniki on PS1. That fucking gay game, you know? The fucking gay shoot 'em up. I never played Cho Aniki. I'm giving myself some time here because I can't. I'm like
Night Trap.
Night Trap was pretty weird. Oh, I got one. Even though it is weird, I guess. But it might be cheating. Katamari Damacy. That's kind of weird, right?
No, that counts.
Yeah, that game is really weird.
All right, so there's mine. I didn't play a lot of it, but I did play. Like, what the fuck is this shit? You know.
I will. Mine has to be Tecmo's Deception.
Deception.
Oh, you love that game, yeah.
Dude, I love that game, but it is like Japanese game show weird. Just like because when you launch people, like it's not even like this seamless thing, like it's this goofy over the top, like and they fly into the wall and they go through a basketball hoop and they hit a lion statue which vomits them out and then they catch on fire. Like it's just weird. It's weird. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what inspired it. I don't know. It just seems like this weird game that came out of nowhere. There's no other games like that in the genre that I know of.
All right, Chris, weird games.
Oh, I played Nobi Boy. That game isn't even a game. It's like if you just pop some acid and just sat for a while. Like that's Nobi Boy. Like it makes no sense. I didn't see any objective. I didn't see anything. It's just like there's weird animal creatures and balloon animals and asteroids. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same creator as Katamari, by the way.
Yeah, I got one for you guys. And Brett, I'm surprised you didn't say this, man. Motherfucking Seaman.
Oh God, yes.
That was a weird one.
You don't get weirder than that, man.
No,
I am Seaman.
Yeah, are we talking about just like odd versions of games, or like I kind of want to throw in Eternal Darkness?
Yeah, Eternal Darkness is pretty trippy, man.
It's the only game that like I was ready for it to like be like, oh, you're shrinking, oh, there's a bunch of zombies, but there's 2 times that it really fucked with me. One, mid-boss battle, it just cuts out. Thank you for playing Eternal Darkness. Keep an eye out for Eternal Darkness 2 coming this fall. And we're like, oh, well, okay, set the controller down, walked halfway out of the room, and then boom, the boss battle started again. That was fucking terrible. And another time where it threw up a blue screen of death just to fuck with us. So like, I have to say,
that's because your fear was high in that game.
Yeah, well, it's
insanity.
It did shit to fuck with you, not only in the game, but to actually like fuck with your mind outside of the game. Like I remember looking at my buddy because like we were playing, like the mute started flickering, and the mute in small green. For those of you who don't remember, CRTVs used to say mute in red or green. And it would pop up on like the bottom left of the screen, mute, and then it'd cut out, and then in, and then back out, and the sound. And after a while, I looked at him, I was like, wait a minute, does your TV even say mute in green? He's like, no, it says mute in red in the top right. And we realized that obviously the game was just dicking with us then. But I have to give it to Eternal Darkness just for it's the only game that I've ever known that actively fucks with you in real life, other than maybe Seaman.
Yeah, well, I mean, Metal Gear did, fuck with you to some extent.
Yeah, with the memory card.
Yeah,
it was like reading off the games that you played and shit.
Yeah, a few games do that though. Yeah. All right, Manny. Weird games.
Weird games. Shit. I don't know. I can't. I mean, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, I would put up Nobi Boy because it was a free game at some point on PlayStation. Also, Tokyo Jungle is kind of a nutty game. If you ever played that, again, I think it's by the same creator as Katamari Damacy. I think anything that guy makes is just kind of nutty. You know what's we think the one game. I feel like you also have to start thinking about older games and how kind of surreal they are.
Yeah.
Because what do I mean, people don't think Super Mario Brothers is weird, but that fucking game is weird.
Yeah, it's like you're an Italian plumber.
You're an Italian plumber that's in a pipe world that grabs mushrooms that make you grow tall, and you kill turtles and mushrooms and giant turtles.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
In this, it's pretty nutty.
Yeah,
and we accept it.
Yeah, and even shit like Earthworm Jim is like, what the fuck is going on in this game? You're like a worm that grabbed a spacesuit and he's like flinging cows into like weird ass.
But I feel like
they kind of made sense of that.
Kind of, but if you really think about it, it's like, wait, what?
Dude, I gotta put Conker's in that category.
Sonic works as a world a little bit better than Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. Sonic makes more sense. And Brett, you're vouching for Conker's Bad Fur Day?
Yes. Come on, you're a drunken squirrel, and one of the first levels is convincing bees to have sex with an anthropomorphized flower.
And isn't there a shit monster in that game too?
No, he's a whole level because he's a shit mountain.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That's right.
He's a mountain of shit.
He's a mountain of shit. Right, Brian, what you got? Weird games.
First and foremost, Senran Kagura.
Yes,
I still to this day do not understand how that game is in a game. I mean, the objective is to beat up on schoolgirls who are ninjas, which, okay, whatever. There was this one game that I did see passing by called Akiba's Trip, and I don't understand how that's even a thing, because the objective is to beat up on people to the point where you can strip them off their clothes. I'm just like, this is
that sounds like Iki-Tusen.
Yeah, it still sounds quite odd to me. It still sounds quite odd. Maybe I'm not used to it. Maybe that's a thing over there, or maybe that's just some guy's like deranged mindset. I don't know, but yeah, that's just odd.
I mean, No More Heroes is also pretty nutty too, if you think about it.
Brian, I'm surprised in particular of one you didn't mention. One you always threatened to make Rachel play.
Goat Simulator.
Oh, yes.
Goat Simulator. That was. I wouldn't class it as odd. It's just more like just random. What the fuck? It's not like it's not. I don't know. It's like a different type of odd. It's like on one hand, there's like Japanese odd, which is like finger in the butt is like a thing, and then there's like American like westernized odd, which is like, oh my god, so random. Like here, have like a pentagram and like a devil goat comes out. I don't know. It's like two different types of odd, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely that would go there. But then again, I never really played it, so.
I'm sorry, but any game called Goat Simulator automatically goes to the weird pile. You know? Then the actual game is just fucking bonkers. You know?
Yeah, it's weirder than it sounds.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the game has like glitches there on purpose, and people like that. Very odd game. Carlos, weird games.
I don't know. Would you consider Yakuza 0 a weird game?
I wouldn't, but I could see why you would say that, because there's some weird shit in that game. Like I said, the first side mission had to do with like, you know, stop a girl from selling her panties and shit. The's a guy running around with his fucking underwear.
Like there should be a subcategory of weird that's just Japanese.
Yeah, there's Japanese weird is a very special type of weird.
Well, like is the game weird? You could legitimately ask the question: is that game weird, or is it just Japanese?
I'm gonna go with it's just Japanese, because the main story is serious. This is side missions that are fucking ridiculous, but they're Japanese ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of games that fall into that, like Honey Pop. Honey Pop is a really weird game, but it's not really weird. It's just very Japanese.
Yeah. Is Honey Pop an actual Japanese game, or is it just styled like to be a Japanese game?
It's just kind of styled after one. It's a combination of like Candy Crush and a Japanese dating sim.
Yeah, it's weird. I could never get past the second girl in that game. Rachel recommended that, but I don't know how to play fucking Candy Crush. I'm like, I can't.
Oh, you never played Snoot in school?
I don't know what the hell that is. What the fuck is Snoot?
Snoot?
Yeah, Snoot. What is that?
It was like a Tetris game where you aimed with a little cannon and shot things that looked like the little amoebas up, and they bounced off. They were pretty. Snoot was installed by default on almost all all school PCs.
Nope.
What?
No, never heard of that.
I mean, there's variations of it like Zuma on Xbox and stuff. I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, but no.
I only played that shit in school, in high school, because it was.
I played King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry in computer class. So
yeah,
how did you get Leisure Suit Larry in computer class?
Oregon Trail, hot dog stand.
Yeah. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? That's just
Carmen San Diego.
Adam, weird games.
It was one that I recently played, Mr. Masaji.
What the fuck?
I got the platinum in that game, and your whole goal is
Mr. Miyagi. What?
Your goal is to try to convince these girls to go home with them, so that way you can give them a massage, and then your control starts vibrating, and they start making these weird things. So there's different types of girls, and then one of them actually kills you, and then there's another one that's online and lies to you about how she looks. And I mean, it's all these crazy dialogues, and you can easily mess up, but it's like you're having conversations with these girls, and that's your goal. It's a perfect game.
By the way, Cal, he goes, "What the fuck is Qbert? An alien or a cheese puff?"
Again, like that, he fits in that weird kind of a surreal category. It's like, okay, it's this weird creature that bounces on these little on these squares, and watches out and to avoid snakes and stuff. It's I feel like a lot of that stuff is just like a lot of those things. What is Pac-Man? Okay, we know what ghosts are, but what the fuck is Pac-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, moving on here to Mr. Joel Torres. He goes, do you think PlayStation could sell a console with no features and all it did was play games? No. Like don't get here's the thing, we've always said on the show, it's like, we buy consoles to play games, but most consoles are bought by, let's just be honest, by casuals, and they like all that other shit. So you can't
even not casuals. Like I love my PlayStation, but I use it a good deal to watch Netflix, and things like Netflix and Hulu and cord cutting have become so ingrained into everybody's life that if you took that out of a gaming console, you would have to buy a separate device to pretty much do those things.
Yeah, why do you think people are bitching about the Switch not having any of that stuff? People are expecting that now in their systems, even though
I want Netflix on my Switch.
Yeah, but see?
But it's a secondary console, though.
It is. It absolutely is. But I'd rather watch Netflix on my Switch, especially if I'm already carrying it than my phone.
But yeah, no way. PlayStation 5 or any console.
Well, wait a minute. Doesn't it have a web browser?
No.
No.
I was gonna say then you could just go to the website and then.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, they're not doing it yet, and that's not even necessarily true because I had beef with PlayStation because they don't support a lot of Flash. Like it's the PlayStation's browser is complete bullshit. So I don't know that or really trust that the Nintendo's browser would be.
Yeah, well,
better.
Flash is dead.
Yeah,
it's not even a web technology. It never was.
A resource hog. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we need to go deeper into this question. No, it can't succeed. You need to have other shit too. All right. So let's move on to Mr. Hashling and Slasher. So his first one is, what is one thing you'd like to see completely gone in the gaming industry? He goes, examples are microtransactions or DLCs.
Season passes. I'm done with that shit. Season passes are bullshit. Yeah. Especially when they release them and they don't tell you what's on them. They're like, oh, just give us $50. Don't worry, we're good for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Season passes
are bullshit.
And you see Battlefront got rid of the season pass. Battlefront 2. And also Ubisoft did that with a lot of their games. So we're going in that direction already.
But if we get rid of season pass, aren't we just going to end up buying all of these things a la carte and end up spending more money on?
It's up to you though. It's up to you, and it's broken into parts. So it's like, hey,
yeah, but they'd be more expensive.
No. They did that design because of the season pass. But if they lower the prices and I'm like, oh, here, just pick the ones you want. It's happening now.
Really?
Yeah, look at Tom Clancy's Siege. Same thing.
So they'll lower the price when they don't need to?
They lower the price. They do need to because they know no one's buying the season pass. That's the other reason why they're getting rid of them. People just aren't buying all the season passes. Every game all of a sudden started coming with a season pass.
I mean, I would like to see them getting rid of season pass because it takes away the motivation for them to make quality DLC. Like if you make DLC that has to be good or nobody's going to buy it instead of it all being pre-bought, that's optimal. My only fear is that it'll jack up the price for DLC. But I guess in a quote unquote competitive market that there's.
And then in fact, even with Battlefront 2, they announced that not only is no season pass, but all the content is going to be free. All the maps and all the extra stuff that comes is going to be free. It's only going to be like cosmetic stuff that you can buy for like microtransactions, but everything else is just going to be in there.
I hate that though. Like you used to beat the game or do something special or be better than other people to get a special costume. Like I don't know. Does it bother anybody else that you used to be able to unlock extra costumes and now you have to buy them?
You still do, but most of the time the way they do it is stuff that you buy, stuff that you can unlock, and it's optional. It could be like a stupid T-shirt or something like that. The cool stuff you'll always get throughout the game. You beat the game, you get special suit.
If I were to get rid of anything, and it might be controversial, not in this room, but to other people, is I would get rid of like making games do more than one thing. So meaning either have a game be a single player campaign or have a multiplayer by itself. I think it'll make for better games.
You mean one or the other, right?
Yeah, one or the other.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've been saying that for a while. It's like, can't you just like release the MP by itself? Fuck that, getting into my SP. I agree with that. Let's see. For me, what I wanted to get rid of from the industry is Anita Sarkeesian and anybody like her. They're fucking ruining gaming, man. I swear. And I still believe Anita may, be like the industry's Frederick Wertham in disguise. Maybe not because the industry's still strong, but she's definitely out there making games look bad in front of general audiences. So she definitely needs to go. Anybody like her?
Yeah, she's definitely a thorn. I don't know if she has the impact that she claims to have. I don't know. I don't know if she hinders the industry significantly in that way.
But even the amount she has hindered it is still enough,
Those people,
game developers are trying to kowtow to her and her ilk now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I see, So that's my main thing. Here's the thing: I'm not really troubled by shit like DLCs or microtransactions. That's up to the consumer. But the type of shit they're doing, it forces certain ideas on people whether they like it or not, and it fucks. Look what happened with fucking Mass Effect. Perfect example of that nonsense. So that's what I say, man. All right, Manny, if you could see one thing from gaming, go. What would it be?
One thing from gaming, I would say the whole DLC, the form that DLC has taken, which is essentially holding back a portion of game in order to sell it as DLC, rather than like they pushed DLC on us before, where it was like, oh hey, but you can get more content from the game, like shit like what happened with the Sora's Wrath, where they're like,
oh yeah,
essentially put the ending into some DLC. The game didn't end, so they put the game. They didn't have enough time to finish the game, or they wanted to keep it back, so they put the ending in a fucking DLC. No, that's not the way you do these things. If we're gonna get DLC, do it like we did with what we have with Uncharted. What is it? A year or two later, now we're getting getting a legitimate a legitimate DLC from it, rather than just, hey, look, we decided to hold back 2 levels.
Yeah. All right. Who else wants to go next? Just jump in. Mostly because I forgot who went.
I said my piece about season pass.
Yeah, I think Chris, you got to go next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to see GameStop go away. I like Adam's answer. Season passes is total bullshit. Microtransactions, total garbage. Like, either do it Brett's way, where it's meritocracy and you earn it through gameplay, like a certain number of multiplayer hours played or single player hours, or you find a certain thing. Don't be like, or pay to win because we know how busy you are. It's like, no, then it defeats the whole purpose. I hate pay to win. Pay to win needs to go, period. Like, that shit that needs to go away. That whole fucking thing. It's a terrible model.
Yeah. All right, Brian, what you got?
I don't know. Like, my first thought is always microtransactions, because I'm just not a big fan of how they work. Because I just don't like the idea that someone can just like buy a game and then just buy the microtransaction, and voila, they now have like this skin thing that it takes you like 5 hours to work on. It's like, no, that's not where's the fun in that? Like, where's the fun in earning your what do you call it? Brett, help me out here. I know that you know the word.
I was distracted for a second. Go back a sentence.
Okay. Where's the fun in earning your something? When you earn it, it's not achievement. It's something else. There's a term for it. Okay, whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah. Where's the fun in earning your stuff? Where's the fun in that? There's definitely a massive difference between
Stripes?
just buying. Sorry?
Is it stripes?
That's the word. Yeah. Where's the fun in that? I just don't like that. And also bring back that as well. Bring back the ability to get a new costume by finishing the game, or getting 50 headshots. That's one of the things that I thought would be different about achievements and trophies. I thought that they would actually mean something, and it's okay, cool, you get this achievement and then you unlock this trophy. Now it's you get this achievement and then you just unlock a trophy and that's it. Tie something to the game instead of just the trophy itself. I want to see more of that, because right now getting trophies and platinums are it's satisfying, but it should be more satisfying. I'm not getting enough fun from earning trophies and doing these things. It feels like I'm just doing them just to get the platinum and that's it. I want to get 50 headshots with a pistol, to get some sort of weird weird emblem. And this is one of the things that really frustrates me, is that Call of Duty does that quite well. It's okay, you get 50 headshots with this gun, boom, you unlock this like thing, like to show off. Like,
Yeah.
Like gold weapons.
I like that.
Yeah. Golden weapons, platinum weapons, different outfits and stuff. Yeah.
It's just gaming. Also get rid of all the PR of all the PR guys at E3. They do a very bad job of representing gaming. And
you mean the guys on stage?
Not the guys on stage. Okay, the best example I can think of is like the really weird parts of like the Ubisoft conference.
Yeah.
Get those guys.
The guys on stage.
Get rid of those guys. Get rid of anyone that says anything like iconic or something or some crap like that. I'm sick and tired of those guys. No, I'm thinking like not everything is iconic, and get rid of anyone that says that something is an instant classic after like a week. Nothing's an instant classic. It's an oxymoron. Yeah, that's it.
Right. And that's. See, is that? Yeah, that's okay. No, next question. Last question from Mr. Ashling. What? Didn't you go, Brett?
No.
I thought you did. You piggybacked off somebody else's shit. All right, what do you want to see go away?
Hand holding.
Oh, he wants to get good.
You want to see what to get good, yeah.
Let's start with I'm really sick of the Ubisoft approach to open world gaming, but putting a finer point on that would be hand holding. I'm really sick of. You can very clearly see it where current open world games started with where Warcraft started, and you have a quest giver, and you go to this node, and you talk to this quest giver, and you accept the quest, and that initiates this quest. And you go kill a number of these things and come back. That same basic setup has persisted through Creed games. It's the same reason I didn't find myself that interested in Horizon. I almost miss the Shemnu approach where people didn't have a giant exclamation point above their head, and every fucking item that was important doesn't have a gleaming shine that flickers every 3 seconds to grab your attention, so you absolutely totally can't miss it. I miss the days where, and this is one of the reasons why I love Dark Souls so much, where you actually had to get around with friends. They're like, have you heard if you go to this part of town at this time and talk to this person, this thing happens? And especially in this day and age where we're all so interconnected, it makes it for a more communal thing. I'm sick of being spoon-fed. Walk to this area, talk to this guy, follow his directions. It's unrefined, and I feel like we can do better with emergent gameplay and storyline. Even Shemnu is an old game, but you had to walk around town. You had to fulfill certain hidden criteria. You had to talk to certain people at certain times and use your head and figure it out a little bit.
All that to play Life is Strange. You'd like it.
Yeah, there are certain games that do that, but we have jumping back on the topic of kids these days, I guess, are fucking idiots because you can't play a game without somebody pointing a flashing neon sign at you and saying do this. I'd like to see that go away and allow for more room for people to have, personal, individualized experiences with video games instead of everybody making. Because God forbid the developers are just so fucking scared that they're gonna make something. They don't have faith in their player base. I'd definitely like to see that change because I feel like that is the one thing that has gotten noticeably worse in especially the last 5.
All right. So let's move on to the last question from Mr. Hashlingen. Do you think early access games could ever become a thing on consoles?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm surprised it's not.
Yeah, actually easier than it would be on PCs because you don't have to, you're not testing all of these different builds. You're just testing it on this one build. And then you're the idea of early access is to tweak and change game mechanics and balance the whole thing. So it would actually be easier if you had a whole bunch of people with identical setups so you could focus on the game instead of trying to tweak the performance for everybody's specific setup. I think early access would work infinitely better on consoles.
I think the not developers, but I think like Sony and Microsoft maybe are not sure that their audience is smart enough to understand that these aren't complete games, and then may in turn then just tell their friends, "Oh, this game sucks, this and this and that." Meanwhile, it's like, did you play it in that early access mode? Like that's where you found it? Oh yeah. Well, then it's not finished. That's why it's there.
That's very founded. People in Steam don't fucking understand this shit.
Yeah,
that's also the main reason why on the E3 show floor you don't see like a beta build or anything like that written on the actual things. Like the only games that they put out on the E3 show floor are games that are in a seriously playable like seriously playable, as opposed to a really, really early build like they used to do in the old days of E3. I think there will be a lot of confusion because you're dealing with general audiences. You're not only dealing with people that understand about people that are into tech and all that other stuff.
Unless they do it sort of like how you see how right now we just had where the PS4 just said, "Hey, sign up if you want to be part of the new firmware beta program." If they do something like that, "Hey, sign up if you want to be part of this early access program," then it's like, okay, the people signing up obviously know what this is.
But that's free. Early access games you still have to pay for.
Yeah, but I mean, just to get into that section where there are early access games. So it's like you're in it, but
I see. You're saying wall it off from the rest of the regular games.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't give it to everybody and expect
everybody
to understand what this is. Because at the same point, because what do people simplify early access into? A demo of a finished game.
Yeah. If
it's just another
just another tab, they're not going to get it.
Yeah, here's the thing. People think betas are representative of the final game, right? Like this week, if you guys saw, I was having problems with Destiny, but I also couldn't get mad because it was a fucking beta, right? But a lot of people see it as the finished product. So because of that, here's the thing. I don't want to say that I don't think it'll do well. I just think early access games on consoles will be very difficult because people are going to go in there thinking it's the full game. They're going to see some shit. They're going to bitch about it. And, that's going to like just keep rolling and rolling. Now, speaking for me personally, I wouldn't try that shit. I could listen. I'm just being honest. I get links to, or codes to early access shit all the time. I send it right to the delete box, right? Because I'm like, why the fuck am I going to play a game that's not even finished yet? That's like watching a movie without any of the special effects put in. I'm like, that's a waste of my fucking time. Finish the game, then I'll play your shit. So me personally, I wouldn't mess around with that. I know you disagree, but that's why
I disagree also.
That's my position on it. I don't see the point of playing a game that's not fucking finished yet. Exactly, like I said, that's like watching a movie that's not even finished yet.
But that's the thing. You're helping. The whole point of early access, like you give feedback. Hey, by the way, did you know that this frame had an issue, or did you know that?
That's fine. Let somebody else handle that. I don't want to fucking do that. Let somebody else do that shit.
Here's on a good early access game, and I'll probably hold up Ark for this. When it first comes out, and Minecraft was kind of the same way. When it first comes out, it is a fully fledged, fully playable game. Same with Kerbal Space Program, right? And then what they're doing, the idea of alpha is that you have a stable build, and then you add new game mechanics. So for a lot of people, if it is already a fully playable game in alpha and you're still able to enjoy it, then what you are essentially getting is about a year's think of like 3 seasons passes bundled together, but you actually get a say in what those seasons passes are going to be. Now the problem is a lot of early access games come out broke and they're like, oh, it's early access. No, you should and this is kind of what's kind of become the idea in the PC community, at least. If you put a game on early access, you should already have the funds able set aside to be able to finish the game. You do not rely on your audience for development money because you will end up basically not getting it finished. You use early access money to be able to inflate your budget and add new features that the community wants to see in an effort to make a better product to hit the shelves. So, when it all works actually really well because the game shouldn't be broken. Even an early access game that has is game breaking bugs is borderline unacceptable. What you should be really seeing is a flushed out working game that then new elements get added to, and those elements may be buggy for a week or two. Like if they add a new, we added berries to the game that you can gather Like sometimes, maybe those berries wouldn't respawn or something like that. So the new element may be a little bit tweaky for a bit. So they add it, they stabilize it, and then they balance it, and then they add another thing. So while there may be a small upset, most of the time these games are highly functioning, fully playable games. They're just not as feature rich as they would be down the road.
Yeah, but why not just wait until further down the road to play it instead of just playing like the hamburger version of it? Like, okay, get the bun and the other shit later. It's like
well, in the case of Ark, if I had the heart to go back and play it, it's now a completely different game than when I first played it.
And that doesn't upset you?
Oh no, it's better in a great way. Like it's like they added a bunch of DLC to it.
Don't you also think that early access is also an excuse for a game developer to not be that creative?
Yeah,
because
like,
if you have a committee of people giving to you essentially free ideas to improve your game.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You're essentially, if you think about it, it's kind of, it's sad to say, but it could be a little bit disingenuous. There's a reason why Minecraft is so well done, and it's not because of what's his face. It's because he had a community saying, hey, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do this. That's the reason why he hasn't been able to come up with a new fucking game. Because he doesn't know how to make a new game unless he has a committee.
Retired. He's made so much money. He's never working again.
But you remember for a while he was working on a new game for a long time. He's like, yes, I'm working on a new game, blah blah blah, and he couldn't come up with anything because the thing is, I'm going to say this: that guy was not very creative in general, and he's admitted it himself. The only strength of Minecraft and a lot of those sorts of early access sorts of games is the communities that are behind them. But essentially, you're stealing a bunch of ideas.
Yep.
But I've also seen communities ruin games for that same reason. Like if you don't have a clear idea of what you want your game to be, and you listen too much to the community, they'll put you in a tailspin, constantly quote unquote reinventing it to try and please everybody, and the game never gets released.
Well, obviously you have to use discretion as to the things that you put in or put on. But the thing is, again, it's a committee that you're essentially pulling free ideas from.
Yeah, it's while you give the creator less credit, then I find that actually ups the quality of a lot of games. Like it's so weird that a lot of gaming companies don't listen directly to their customers, and then you have a game come out, and you're like, well, why didn't you just do it this way? And that would have been so much simpler and better. And they're just like, oh, I don't know. So it's got its pros and its cons. It's just you have to have people like me who are fully willing to accept both the pros and the cons.
Well, let's call this exactly what it is. It's people paying the company to QA test the fucking games for them. That's what they're doing. Like mostly most of the time they don't want your feedback. They just want you to test the game out to find all the kinks.
I would agree with that. At the same time. Go ahead,
Brett, you go first.
Go ahead, Brian. Brian, go ahead.
No, Brett. I'll let Brett finish first.
All right.
Okay, I was just gonna say, to a certain essence, yeah, you are paying to Q test the game, but at the same time, a good early access game generally comes with a pretty steep discount of what the end game would. Some of them, the good ones, not all of them. Some games make you pay extra to get into the early access, and that's bullshit. But in the case of Minecraft or whatever, you essentially pay about 50% of what the game will eventually cost, because you're going to be quality testing it, and then as it gets closer to release, it gets closer to full price. So you're also you're paying to buy the game, but the idea is that you'll be buying the game anyway, and so you're getting paid to quality test it. Is another way that you could look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I there's, you certainly brought up some good points about the pros, but again, my whole thing is I go back to it again. I don't personally want to play a game that isn't finished. I'd rather play the finished product. Again, I'm annoyed when I get here's the perfect
think about it. We just talked about that. Do we ever really play a finished game?
That's what I was going to get to that, right? Think about it like this, right? You know how annoyed I get when I get a fucking platinum for a game, then they come out with all this other shit for that. It changes the whole thing. I'm like, I wasted my fucking time. You know, that's how I feel. You know, it's like the version of the game I played isn't the real version of the game. You know, so the early access would just be that like 100 times over for me. You know, it's bullshit. So I'm not really. I mean, if you guys like it, fine, but it's not for me, man.
But you don't wait to watch an anime until they've stopped making seasons for it.
Some I do, yeah. Some I do. You know, like I'll wait for that shit. You know.
Okay, touche.
They don't fucking beta test animes though.
They don't, yeah, man, hey, check out these animations. Like what?
Usually, even when you get a pilot of an episode, you still get a finished product.
Wait.
You don't get a couple skipped animations.
To be fair to Brett, everyone who watches Dragon Ball Super anime is essentially beta testing that freaking.
Oh yeah, well that for that reason, that one is because of it's done because of not because they want to test it out, is because they cut the budget, and then what they'll do is they know that they make the most of their money on the DVD version, so they'll put a little bit of extra money into the animation budget.
Yeah,
well, yeah, but I guess the point
just want to hack those things out.
And that's why I'm glad I wait for them to come on Toonami. I don't watch them as they come on.
In game development, they're not hacking shit. You know, they're not trying to hack things out and say, "Hey," you know.
I guess where I'm coming from is narrative is usually one of the last things that's added, and so normally you'll play the game with not a whole lot of story, and then they'll start adding story. So it's not like the game itself isn't done. It's the narrative or a lot of that career mode or whatever hasn't been done. It's kind of like a sandbox playground that they're testing the mechanics out, and then you get story expansions that release every so long. So
but again, why not just wait until all that shit is done and save yourself?
Why play the first Telltale game in the series before they're all released?
That's what I'm saying. It's better to wait.
It's fun. No, it's fun.
The Telltale game. The Telltale game is also it's not a beta testing situation either.
Yeah, it's a full game.
It's part of a game. But the only reason why they split it in half, like split it into parts like that, is because they can make more fucking money off of it.
Yeah,
you essentially use the money from your first episode to fund the next episode.
Yeah, well, Brett, to answer your question, unless I need to review it, I wait for the Telltale games to finish completely, then I play them. It's very frustrating to play them one piece at a time.
That's like watching a TV show, though. Like you watch one episode, and then it's like, all right. Like right now, what we're doing with Game of Thrones, I don't know anyone that's just going to wait. It's not frustrating. It's part of life.
It's frustrating as shit. The main reason I watch Game of Thrones, as they come out, is because I don't want motherfuckers spoiling it for me. I'd rather wait, but can't do that.
Well, the same goes for Telltale games.
Yeah, you just wait. That's
for Telltale games. That's a business ploy. That is not an episodic. It's not. They can if they could fund all of those games at once, they would. But they're using that to fund the rest of the content. So it's a business ploy, not because they can't, they just want to give you episodic content. No,
it's a good idea though. I think episodic works. I mean, if they get rid of that and then they just make it one long story, then it's not episodic. The little chunks works when it comes to time. It's like I don't have that much time.
Here's the thing: to develop a smaller game is a lot cheaper than developing the full Telltale game. But the thing is, you use that money that for the first chapters to develop your later chapters.
I don't like that because what if the first chapters aren't successful and the fans that bought
and then you don't get any sequel games. There were a couple of Telltale games that didn't continue.
Which ones?
Which one? I didn't hear.
There was I can't remember which ones, but there was some. The Jurassic Park one.
No, they finished that.
They finished it. They just don't make more of them.
They finished that shit.
They'll finish them. They just drop them afterwards.
Yeah. But the thing is that it just did. That's just a business ploy. It's just a because again they're using it to kind of. It's a successful business ploy, but the thing is that they're not getting you to beta test this first version of the game and then improving on it. No, they're using it to fund the next chapter.
Yo, Barry Burton says, Tony, you did play an early access game. You just didn't know it. It was No Man's Sky.
It was also Destiny.
Oh, God. Oh, shit. And see, games that weren't that good. Anyway, let's move on here.
Start that again.
Go ahead,
I
Brian.
can say my piece really quick. Okay, going back to the original point of discussion, I don't think that they would work purely because of the policies that Microsoft and Sony have in place. And the reason why I say this because I've been following a lot of the Division since day one, and I think ever since October-ish, they deployed something called the PTS, or the Playable Test Server. Essentially, they had a build of the next update on that server, and then you'd go in, and then they'd tweak that every like week or so to like make changes for like the next official build. And what happened is you got a lot of guys asking when it's coming to PlayStation and Xbox, but they never did until I think like last month, purely because they had to work around Microsoft and Sony's policies on updates. Because essentially every time you tweak a game, that counts as an update, and then that comes with inherent cost associated with that update.
And for reviews as well, like they need to review it and shit. There's a lot of shit that goes into it. You're right. Yeah.
So I don't think it would work on that front, and if it does, then it's only going to work for like the larger companies. So only those that can afford to do so with like the time, well, in terms of time and cost, will do so, whereas the smaller guys won't. So hence why I don't think that you'll see it that often coming to consoles, purely because it's a high barrier to entry. And in terms of
two words for you.
What's that?
Competitive players.
The fuck was
what
that?
do you mean?
If you have a game like Overwatch, for instance, right, that releases an early access mode, everybody will jump on that because nobody's going to be want to be the guy that doesn't know the mechanics on day one.
Right now, they actually do that with Overwatch. They test the shit out first on PC, then they bring the final one over to consoles when it's ready to launch.
And I bet you a lot of the competitive people are either playing on PC or at least start on PC to get a layout of the characters and the weapons and everything like that, so that they can be competitive when they move over to console.
Yeah, but the point is, like, the console guys don't have access to that shit until it's officially released.
Well, but if they did, and all of the Call of Duty players, all of the Overwatch players, I think it's very game dependent. If you say, like, here is a beta of Overwatch, it's only 3 arenas, you're allowed to buy into it now. The full game is going to have, 12 plus arenas and a couple more characters. But if you buy into it now, we'll give you a reduced price and let you practice in these 3 arenas as much as you want.
But here's the thing: what Brian was saying is, like, okay, you could have that. That's I totally agree with you. Yeah. What about Sony and Microsoft's policies, though?
Yeah, my thing is that it's not like the player base that is holding it. It's Sony and Microsoft and their policies, because like they have a cost associated with like every update they do. So if you are a small-time studio, like some random like third-party indie developer from, I don't know, Slovenia, then you can't afford to like push updates for an early access game onto consoles because the cost is too damn high. And
they need to ditch that
like
shit.
Your thing. Yeah, so I think that's why I said that it possibly will not, and if it does, then it's only going to be like the major studios that will do it.
But do you think that if they, I think almost it would have to be Sony and Microsoft saying that we want to do this, so we're going to open up a special section of early access games and then not charge people to update those, because we want those updated constantly.
You just said probably Microsoft not to charge people. You are funny.
No, I know.
Very funny.
And I was about to say, what they would probably do is then lock the option to be able to play any early access games behind their subscription service.
I doubt it, because they would not make money from it. Again, at the end of the day, Sony and Microsoft are businesses. Like they survive by making money where they can. If they don't make money where they can, then they'll see that as a lost opportunity. Like, I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Like, I myself have acknowledged that. Like, these guys want to make money where they can. Like, I don't see that as a feasible business strategy.
I guess my question then is
why I don't see it possible. I would like that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that would be great, but so myself just wouldn't allow it.
Is there a good reason for that price to be there? Does it cost them a significant amount of money every time they push an update through PlayStation?
Yeah, it does. I think it's like 10,000 something, and then.
Well, no, I know that's what it costs the development. I know that's what Sony charges, but is Sony actually eating? Like, is that just a service fee on their part, or is this actually costing them money? Because if it's the latter, then there's no way around that.
I don't know the ins and outs exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
They haven't disclosed how all that shit works behind the scenes.
All I know
is
is that
I don't think they need to charge that.
But they
I
do.
don't see
They
why
do
they
charge it, though. That's the thing. They do
all
it.
I know is that updates cost a lot, and that would severely hinder the early access program. It's like one of the reasons why Warframe on PC gets a lot more updates than Warframe on consoles. I think like Warframe on consoles gets updated, I think maybe once every 6 weeks or something, purely because like how often you can push and the cost of doing so. Whereas
I
on
feel
PC,
like this is a policy that just needs to
there's no cost.
change.
It feels a policy.
Hence why I said, unless they change the policies, then you won't be seeing this like anytime soon.
Well, even aside from the
Or
question,
if
like
there will
that's
be, then you have massive guys.
you bring up a great point that even not we're not even talking hypothetical. We're already talking a tangible loss of parity because of these policies. It's not something in the future. It's happening right now and affecting games right now, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, it's already happened now, and I don't think that they care that much. Again, I don't think they care. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but
I think you're right. I'm just sitting here thinking they
making steps towards it.
Yeah, I don't think early access is a priority for these guys, man.
No. I also had something else to say, but I forgot. But in interest of time, let's keep things going.
Yes. All right. The last couple of questions here we just pulled from the chat tonight. So thank you. First up is Mr. Daniel J, who also hooked us up with a nice contribution. So thank you for that. He goes, is the N64 Mini a real thing or a rumor? If so, how can they replicate the controller? Okay, so let's break it down. Basically, Nintendo, they filed a patent for a Nintendo 64 style controller. They did the same thing for a Super Nintendo controller and an NES controller, which eventually became the controllers used for the mini versions of the games, right? So that's why people believe that the N64 Mini is coming, right? So yes, it's not official right now; it's still a rumor, but it's a rumor based on a lot of facts, right? That has happened before. So take it, with a grain of salt, obviously, but it's a rumor right now. And he, the second part is, how do you replicate the controller? I don't know. That's a good question, because I'm thinking, will that controller like bring up the price of this thing? Because remember, the SNES Mini is already $80. This thing's probably gonna have to cost $100. Not only because of the controller, but because the game file sizes are way bigger. But replicating a controller, I don't see how that's a problem. There's a ton of knockoff N64 controllers. You could easily do it,
I think he means, like, would the regular N64 controller design work miniaturized?
But the controllers aren't miniaturized. The SNES controller wasn't miniaturized, and the SNES one wasn't miniaturized either. This is going to be a normal controller.
Oh, yeah. Well, then, there'd be no reason not to be able to do it. And, here's one thing that I think we can all count on. If Nintendo does something and it works, they will do it over and over and over and over until it stops working, and then wonder why it stops working. Like, this isn't one of those, like,
see a GameCube. You think we're gonna see a GameCube?
Well,
I think we actually would see a GameCube.
Yeah. If it works, it works. But again, GameCube, those games were bigger. So I wonder how that will work.
They still
a Wii Mini.
Come with a hard drive. It'll just come with a hard drive.
Wii Mini.
Those games did not have that much, even compared to the PlayStation. Like, they were on regular format DVDs and they were mini discs. They did not hold nearly.
Yeah, that is true. They were like a gig or two at most.
They were small. They were
still a gig is a lot more than 53K.
Yeah, but they just put a hard drive. That's all. They just put a standard hard drive, SATA hard drive, and
you put a 64 gig memory chip in that bitch, and you're good to go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's true. So it's still a rumor right now, and they could definitely make the controller work. It's not a problem. Again, there's a ton of knockoffs out there.
I would be surprised to not see this happen, actually.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen.
Even if they don't have the extra, like, I understand the main idea was that, we're going to use these extra parts, but I could see them like, okay, we're going to have a few more Super Nintendos than we had Nintendos, and then we're going to have a decent amount more Nintendo 64s than we did. I think they'll actually start ordering parts and still do limited runs, but this has been clearly so successful for them. I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
I mean, we're talking Nintendo, so, the words, I don't see why they wouldn't do it, followed by them not doing it, is pretty much what always happens. But at the same time, Nintendo's always been pretty good about beating a dead horse when it's making them money.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Moving on to the next question here, Mr. Fall of Duty. He goes, do you guys think? Let me finish the question, guys, because I know some of you guys want to jump in. Okay. Do you think the PS4 saved JRPGs in the West? Because games like Persona are more popular. No, I think JRPGs have just gotten better. That's what's going on. The genre never went away. And
they got horrible for a while, though.
They got bad for a while. Now they're getting better. So I don't think it's the PS4. More that the games themselves are just getting better.
I almost blame Pokemon.
How's that?
It was about the same. The same thing happened with anime. Like it kind of was, my first RPG, and it got such critical success that a lot of people tried to emulate it for its success, and so RPGs became very simple. They became very stunted. They stopped being as experimental. Same thing happened with anime. A lot of it got very, super kid friendly. It was all about capturing things or card games or shit like that, and it stayed that way for. I'm seeing a parallel when anime started to get good, RPGs started to kind of get good too. And it was because they just, drifted away and started doing their own thing again.
I don't know. The thing is, I think the stuff that we have been getting over here in the West has been in the West has been a little bit laxed as far as the anime thing goes. But I mean, the good anime has always existed. You just needed to dig deeper.
Yeah,
you needed to actually, go through the trouble of importing the whole thing, everything over there.
Between like 2000 and 2007, there did not seem to be a whole lot out.
Oh man, I can get you a list of 50. I can get you a list of 50 anime
I might be
to
just
watch.
speaking idiot right now, but I definitely.
Let's go back to the JRPG. So PS4 didn't save anything. The games are just getting better.
Yeah, well, not only that, but I guess the answer would be the Japanese saved the JRPG because they're the ones that were only ones that were buying it and kept it alive. So that.
And how many Japanese have Xboxes?
Yeah,
none. Maybe two.
Yeah, I mean, if Microsoft had tried to revitalize RPGs, I don't think they would have been as successful. So. Well, I mean, it's a coincidence, but there is some impact on the brand there, I think.
Well, you said revitalized, but they were never dead in the first place.
They never died. They just weren't as prominent as they used to be, but they never died. And the thing is, like, again, the PlayStation is just the platform you play these games on.
They died here, though.
Huh?
They died here for a while, and that's my point. Like,
they didn't die though; they were still like on handhelds and shit. JRPGs were still around.
But.
It was. Here's the thing. It's the JRPG. At some point was the top of the game, right? But then it kind of slipped into that that little niche section where you'll find a lot of the original older RPGs. But I feel like they've gotten the spotlight yet again. I think it's just one of those natural progressions where things have come there. They've always been there. Just people weren't paying attention, and then they come back. Oh yes, and by the way, 2007 anime, Gurren Lagann, Naruto. Let's see, Afro Samurai.
Yeah, what was before that though?
It was 2007. You said
no. I said 2000 to 2007 was a dry spell. It picked back up in 2007.
Oh wait. All right.
Before this turns into anime,
we'll talk about this after the show.
Yeah.
No, it must be done now. Nothing else.
All right, come on, man. We got one more question here, so let's get to it. Diesel78 or Mr. Sean Watson, he goes, would you like to see Sony make a new Vita and PS5 simultaneously? Because Sony always seems to make their products a few years apart and thus not fully take advantage of it. We kind of answered this going forward. It would be nice if they were make a Vita, but I don't see it happening. The handhelds market is pretty much fucking dead. So I don't see that happening.
I would like to see because I would like to see a new Vita / PlayStation Portable that works with the PlayStation 4, where essentially you can go on with the PlayStation 3 and download games and download them to your machine. It would be nice if there was more of a connection with a new version of it. So I would like to see that, but I don't see it in the future.
Yeah, neither do I. But the question is, will the PS5 have any like handheld type of thing associated with it?
I hope not.
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. The thing that they could also just essentially just do another update to the current PlayStation Vita to go with to work with the friggin' crossplay with the PlayStation 5. They did it with PlayStation 4.
Yeah. But again, I just don't see it. Again, I love the Vita, but I don't see it doing anything, man. The handheld market is, like I said, is pretty much dead now. You know.
How can you say that?
Easily, because handhelds aren't selling the way they used to. And I know you're gonna go, oh, what about the Switch? You know, I don't see that shit as a fucking handheld. That shit is a console. You know, you can take it with you, but it's not a real handheld like that. And if it's the only one in the game, that's not a healthy market.
The Switch is replacing handhelds?
I don't think it is.
The cell phone did that.
Yeah, cell phones did that.
Cell phones don't have analog controls.
But here's the thing, and we've talked about this on Throwdown. Most like revenue for gaming comes from mobile. Most people don't give a fuck. We give a fuck. Most people don't. You know.
So why did so many DSs sell? Who's buying all of these?
There were no mobile games. Mobile gaming didn't exist when the DS was around.
Well, okay, no. The 3DS. Okay, come on. Mobile gaming has been around.
The 3DS did well, but think about it. When the 3DS first came out, mobile gaming wasn't really a big thing. Now it is a big thing. 3DS isn't selling as much as it used to, and it certainly didn't sell as much as the DS did back in the day. You know, the market is shrinking because people are like, "Fuck it, why do I need to buy that thing? I'm just gonna play it on my phone."
It's like this. It's like, why do I have to carry all these different gadgets with me that when I have this one gadget that does offer some sort of gaming on it as well as all the other things?
Experience. Why do people carry an iPad?
Most people don't give a fuck about that.
Why do people carry an iPad then? It does all the same
it's
shit that your phone does.
No, it's a status symbol.
No, it's not. Okay, come on. Now we're all being.
In both series, it is.
Oh yeah, it's having Apple products. Yeah, the fucking hipsters love that shit. You know, it's like, oh look at me with my Apple.
Getting an Android tablet or anything. Yeah.
Okay, well then why would anybody carry a tablet with them? It doesn't do anything but the same shit that your phone does.
Well, it's easier to read on, isn't it?
It's more convenient. Yeah, but the same thing could be said for a handheld. It's a little bit bigger than your cell phone. It's easier to read and see on your cell phone. It probably has a little more power than your cell phone. It has grips that you grab that aren't the touch.
You don't need to convince me. I know handhelds are better, but I'm just seeing what's going on in the market. You know,
I don't. But this is why I don't believe this shit. You
don't believe numbers, dude. You know most games are on mobile. We've talked about this before. You can't just dismiss that.
I know that there is a mobile a mobile gaming market on cell phones that makes a lot of money. Do I think that video game players, the people playing on their DS or their 3DS systems / their Nintendos, their PlayStations, those Xboxes, do I believe that those people are a significant chunk of the mobile gaming market? Not at all.
No, I completely agree with you, but that doesn't. Remember, you got to understand, real hardcore gamers
between video games and pachinko. Like you can say like pachinko is going to, is console gaming dying because pachinko games are on the rise faster than
But pachinko has nothing to do with console gaming, dude.
Exactly, they're different things. Well, pachinko's a game.
To the average,
there's a Metal Gear pachinko game.
Brett, so you're telling me that playing at home is the same as going to a fucking pachinko parlor? It's a totally different experience, dude.
That's my point. Playing on a cell phone is a completely different experience.
Brett, how is it different? You're outside, you're playing on a device, right? It's the same thing to most casuals. They don't see a difference.
To most casuals, though. But not everybody is a. You're saying to most casuals. That excludes all of the
majority of the people who buy video games, dude.
We've argued about this several times. They're not gamers. We're talking about gamers here, and gamers don't play mobile games. Yeah, bottom line.
But you can't just dismiss the people that actually buy video games in this argument.
They're not actual video games though. They're mobile games. The same way pachinko games aren't actually video games. And pachinko games make money.
They make money, Brett. They make a shit ton of.
So do pachinko games.
What, Brett? You're straw manning right now, dude. Pachinko. Who the fuck is talking about pachinko games, dude?
Okay. Pachinko is to console games as
You are making shit up,
Mobile
Brad.
games-
No, Brad, I'm stopping you. That is complete bullshit. You can't compare a pachinko game to a fucking console. That makes no
You
sense.
can't compare a cell phone game to a 3DS game.
Yes, you can. Because
Oh,
it's a
hell
mobile
yeah.
experience. It's a mobile experience. You're telling me that playing at home on my system, in front of my TV, is the exact same experience I have as going to a pachinko parlor.
No. But I'm saying it's about the same amount of difference that tapping on a screen with no haptic feedback on a machine that is meant to multitask is an inferior and different experience than playing even on a 3DS.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just saying the regular person doesn't notice the difference. They're like, why should I buy a Vita or a 3DS when I can just play this shit on my phone?
It's a game. That's what they see.
That's all they see.
Because everybody that says that is not a gamer, so I don't understand why they're being included with the conversation.
Well, because
the only reason that we're talking about them is because this is an industry that makes money. But my point is, just like pachinko has nothing to do with video games, that industry has nothing to do with actual gamers because no gamers participate in it. It's not a Venn diagram. They're just two circles that are barely touching with games like Hearthstone.
Well, because
and Professor Layton.
The majority of the market is not composed of hardcore gamers. It's composed of mainstream people. Like that's the people that Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo want to sell to.
The majority of what market though? Like this is what I don't understand. Why do people lump together the actual gamers, the video game market, and the mobile market, other than the fact that they have some loose correlation? They don't even have multi-plat games that come out on cell phones and actual consoles. There is no crossover.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
There's a huge
the Telltale games. For example.
There's Telltale games, series. Let's see, the
Bioshock.
Bioshock on your phone now?
Republic was on there.
Fire Emblem. Bioshock on your phone.
Fire Emblem was on there. These are all games that have had multiple releases.
Mario.
Yeah, so like it's like
and for the Professor Layton games and for the Ace Attorney games, there's not really that much of there's no difference in the way you play except you're touching it as opposed to moving it.
So you're saying that if a new Vita came out, none of you would buy it, and you'd all suddenly start playing cell phone games.
But that's not the same thing. We're gamers. We play games on different things. So yeah, we would buy, but we're not the majority. We're not
exactly.
Right? We can't put ourselves in everybody. We're not a sample set of like common man who's like some guy's playing Brick Breaker on his like iPhone or whatever, and he has the potential, like Manny said, to play a Professor Layton or whatever. They're all available to those people. So and they're available at a lower price. Remember, those games are cheap. I picked up Ace Attorney. I have it on my iPhone right now. Bought it for like $4. Right? You got to buy it for $40 on the DS. You know.
No,
yeah, just because the majority of us here would buy a Vita doesn't mean that it would be a runaway hit. Most people are not going to buy a Vita. Like Chris said, why are you going to buy a Vita when you could just buy a fucking mobile game for $1? You know,
because there's an entire market of non-casual gamers.
The thing is that as a company, are you willing to bet that everything that you see the way the everybody keeps saying that the Vita market is dead and all that other stuff? Because there's just not enough people buying them. So why are they going to make a bet on making a new console in that market? It's proven that the consoles are not selling, but the games are. So you know what I mean, Brett? It's about unless they can somehow guarantee that the new console that they're going to be creating, which is this handheld, can be bought by every single person that is already invested in this thing, then maybe. But again, what are new handhelds? They're always advancements on the last one. So what are you going to do? Sell everybody the same fucking console over again? Because they're not going to invest a lot of money into that shit.
I understand that the market share for casual games is a lot bigger, and I understand that handhelds are essentially shrinking. But I'm just gonna all the people that own 3DSs and all the people that own Switches, like that is a market that makes money, And to ignore those people and say like, well, that whole market could dry up and they could stop making all handhelds. Like all of those people, those millions of people who have bought these handhelds aren't going to migrate to cell phone gaming. They would sit there and wait until somebody made a new handheld device, and then they would buy that device because they don't want to play on their cell phones. They're like us. There are millions of us who will not go play on cell phones. So there is an entire market of millions of people who do want to play handheld games and consoles, and there needs to be somebody catering to that. Now, I won't say that Sony should jump in because, quite frankly, I think Nintendo has monopolized the shit out of that. I think that was a big reason why the Vita didn't fly. Is for some reason Nintendo just kept a stranglehold on that market. But I don't think that this idea that you can just dismiss these millions of people because there's more people that play cell phone games, that's what doesn't make sense to me.
The thing is that video game companies are not willing to take chances. That's the plain simple. Because if you think about it in general, Nintendo, with their new console, is them not really taking a chance.
Yeah.
It's investing.
It's essentially them just taking the shit that they knew worked and transporting it to something else.
Exactly, but that's my.
But the thing is
that it works.
The thing is, when you're in a situation like what Sony is in or PlayStation is, where they had the previous console that did not great, are they willing to go out and make a new console? As much as I and a lot of folks who own PlayStation Vitas would love, or PlayStation Portals would love to see it, is that a worth it enough bet to make on?
No, I agree. I don't think that they should make another Vita, but I don't agree with the assessment that it's because the handheld market is dead. It's smaller, but it's never going to completely die because you have these millions of people that
it'll be like a niche thing in the future, but because right now it's not dead. Obviously, it's dying, I should say, but it's definitely going to get to a point where it's not as big as it once was because again, remember the majority of people who bought DSs and all that other shit were casual gamers. Now those casual gamers can get all those experiences on their phones and they won't care. They're like, it's a game, whatever, who cares?
Here's what I'd like to see. What I'd like to hear. I would like to see a survey on how most people play their Switches, because I have been honestly shocked that most of the people that I know have bought them, and I have about 6 friends who have them now. I think 5 of them exclusively play it in handheld mode. They almost never dock the thing.
Count me and Carlos into this situation?
I was actually I forgot about Carlos. Sorry, Carlos. You were the I keep forgetting Carlos has a Switch. No, you're the only person that I know that doesn't. Carlos, do you dock it? Do you play it docked all the time, or do you play it in handheld mode?
I played it docked all the time.
Okay, I'm about 50-50. Just about everybody else that I know plays it almost exclusively in handheld mode, and I was absolutely shocked by that. So I guess I count, and I think that's where our discrepancy comes. Is I give it to the Switch because I see a lot of people interested in playing it like a handheld. And that leads me to believe that if you can get a full game experience on this handheld that outshines the one you can get on your phone, there's absolutely a market for that.
Yeah,
so
again,
I'm just arguing
there's a market. I'm not saying there's a market. I'm just saying it's shrinking. That's all I'm saying. And the reason the Switch kind of isn't stuck to that market is because it's also a console. So if handhelds just theoretically were to die, Switch would be like, we're still a console, so whatever.
I would agree with that. I think it's only that it fulfills the function of a handheld, but still acts like a console. Like I would say, if they came out with a new Vita, I'm not sure what it would have to be dockable somehow, and I can't figure out a way that I would want that to happen. Like I would want, if I couldn't play my regular game on my Vita 2, if I couldn't play my PS5 game on my Vita 2, or if I had to play a downgraded version, that would kind of take the magic away from me. So you couldn't GIMP the system. So I don't really see a way to go around that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you definitely don't want to GIMP the games the way they are on Switch, you know?
Yeah, well, even then, like, there's something that maybe Nintendo's pulled the wool over my eyes on that, because even like you and I have talked about, if they put extra processing power in a plus dock, I still wouldn't feel like it was an inferior experience when I took it off the dock. I would just feel like I get an enhanced experience when I put it on the dock. So maybe that's just my brain being played. Maybe you have to just present it to me in exactly the right way. So like, yeah, maybe there'd be Vita 2 games that when you hooked them up to your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 got a graphical boost. Maybe that'd be the way to sell it to me. But it would have to do something other than just be, you know, a standalone, just lays there and, you know, does something. It almost would have to be a hybrid system of sorts. So I guess I could agree with that. The purely handheld market would be dying.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you, Analog Circle, for giving us some money. Appreciate that. You know,
man.
Okay. Oh, and the last question here we got from Mr. The Melon Daddy. This is a funny one too. What do you guys think of people that bitch about playing as women in a video game? They're fucking idiots.
Why? Why? Who cares?
Who gives a fuck? If it's a good character, you play as one. You got Samus, you got fucking Lara Croft, you got fucking Chun-Li. You got so many of these badass women. And so who the fuck cares?
Two of my favorite games from this year are fucking have a lead female protagonist.
Yeah, man, Gravity Rush and Nier.
Gravity Rush and Nier. So I'm like, I mean, I don't care.
Did you feel like less of a man by playing those games?
No, I like, you know, and you know, what's her face? Like, you know, what's her was in 2B is a badass, and like, and you know, it like it's they're just in what's her face? Cat is like, you know, kind of just like a girl who has this power. I don't know, you know, I don't really think about the characters as much, as long as they're interesting characters.
Yeah, the gender doesn't really matter. Go ahead, Brian.
The gender doesn't really matter.
Technically, 2B is an android, not a human.
She's a robot or an android or whatever.
Yeah.
She's an android that bleeds red blood.
Yeah. But isn't she like a Barbie doll kind of? Like, she doesn't have any parts, right? Like, I don't think any of them do. Like, all the androids don't have any parts, right? They're all like Ken and Barbie dolls.
At least for the two that you see are Ken and Barbie dolls, but I don't know. They allude to relationships, you know. So I don't know.
Maybe they just do things with their mouths. I don't know.
Maybe, who knows?
I'm had like the only person that gets really weirded out about like robots with like boobs. I'm like, why do they need boobs? Like,
they don't officially.
No.
They don't officially.
They don't lactate.
Yeah, but then why do they have like bombs that stick out at that place? Like, it's literally pointless.
Well, you know, it in the game Nier, they actually kind of ask those sorts of questions. You got to remember that they're androids built in the form of man, so or human beings, so they are kind of limited by human flaws as well.
But then, does that not mean that the human beings are quite flawed themselves? I mean, like, if I had the power to make like an android, I would not do it in the form of a human being. I'd do it in the form of like a spider or like a cockroach.
Yeah, you know, man.
Human beings are not that great. I mean, like, come on, we have like 2 legs. We can't climb on walls. We're useless.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. But you know, people, they're hubris. They're like, we want to make something that's like us.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could argue transhumanism with you guys, but that would take a lot of time.
Yeah,
my main question is, so what? Maybe I'm just not understanding. What is the idea behind somebody who says, I don't want to play a female character? Like, I feel like I need further clarification on that argument. Is there a reason for that? Do you just think women are inconsequential or weak? Does it threaten your sexuality? Are you not able to distance yourself and realize that this is a character that's not necessarily you? And I ask this genuinely and not in a derogative way. And I imagine, Manny, you're kind of the same way. Like, actually, and Carlos and Chris, you're probably the same way too, in the sense like if you write or draw something, you're telling a story. That thing, that person that you're making or controlling doesn't have to be you. So there's this kind of disconnect there, and I wonder if it's just, if somebody has imagination and they write or they draw or anything like that, that they're able to make that disconnect. Maybe if somebody, I hate to say it like this, lacks imagination, they can only see things from their point of view instead of imagining this as a separate thing. Like, am I missing this?
Well, I come at it from a different angle. If you're secure in your manhood, you don't care what character is on the screen.
Yep.
If you have some issues, maybe if you look at girls' underwear and you think a little weird about it, maybe you got some deep issues. But don't take it out on the video games, all right?
Well, that's because that's not you, though, right? Like,
I don't care, dude. I don't care if I play a fucking ice cream cone in a fucking video game. I don't care if it's male, female, whatever. Like, I just enjoy the game.
I don't even think about it. Yeah,
I'm not that character.
To be honest,
but Chris, would you play as a female ice cream cone though?
Yeah, sure. Put boobs on the vanilla.
There's some titties and shit.
To be honest, it's like, that is the realm of video games. You can be anything you want to be. And I feel like, or anything you want to be, and also things that you are not. So what is bad about that?
Yeah, here's my thing, right?
You do that as a child when you play as Superman or anything. You're not fucking Superman, or any of those other characters.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I never enjoyed playing as like FemShep. Just because it presents you, because you're supposed to be making choices from your own internal point of view.
Are you? Because when I played Mass Effect, I picked her, when I wasn't the guy in the box, and I always thought, what would Shepard do in this situation? I never put myself in there because that would take me out of the experience. I want to be that other character. That's how I see it, Also, since I'm talking now, whenever I play games that let you customize your characters, I generally make it a female. One, because let's just be honest, there's not too many females, generally in the past in video games. And two, if I'm going to be staring at a character's ass for 30 hours, I'm going to make it a female ass.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's like one of the few points that Tony and I agree on 125%.
Yes, man.
On. No, I do the same thing.
We all actually on the podcast subscribe to that viewpoint. It sounds bad, but it's just one of those. Think of it this way. If you're going to be looking at something, it should be pleasant to the eye.
Yes, and women asses are very pleasant to the eye, to the cis male.
Not even in a sexual way, just even in like a it's the same way you look at Corvette and like that car has nice curves. Like I like nice curves. It's
I look at it in a sexy way though.
Which one of the reasons why I don't necessarily buy the whole like male power fantasy, because there's nothing as awesome as making like an awesome, actually like sexy character and a character creator, and then just whooping ass with her, and it has nothing to do with like I'm a man and I feel strong. Like it's none of that. But yeah, I actually generally make female characters too. The weird exceptions I have to that rule are like Fallout. Just because when I get into situations, I want to be that's one of those games where I want to kind of put myself in that simulation, especially because you're doing it a lot in first person. So like I'll be wandering around first person and somebody will be like, hey, toots, and I'll be like, what, huh? Oh, okay, weird. That's right, I got boobs. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like I forget, and it weirds me out. But yeah, most of the time I actually, I think all the Dark Souls games I played as a female.
Dude, I don't know if this makes you a misogynist or whatever, but with those type of games, the Dark Souls, I'm like, I'm not putting a woman through that shit. You're a man. Like, that is just torture. That's brutal. Nope, you're a man.
Like, I don't want to see this woman die 90 million times.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, maybe that chivalrous part of me is like, no, you don't put a woman through that shit.
I mean, Chris, you usually when in Demon Souls, you had a couple of lady characters.
Yeah, I usually just make custom ones, or I make celebrities. Like usually, I make like one was like William Shatner, and one like I was like, what if Captain Kirk was in here? And I just made it. So I just have fun with it because the character creator is so detailed,
Oh, quick thing about Mass Effect: the main real reason I play as a female Shepard is because she's a better actress than the guy who does.
Yeah,
that's definitely true.
Yeah. The man Shepard has a really dry delivery.
Yeah.
Oh, my Shepard was always like, I I always like one of the characters that I like making in games. His name is Oshamus, and I just try and make like the most ragged, drunk-looking person I can. And if I get bonus points if I can give him a black eye, which you can almost always find a way to do. Like in Dark Souls, you could like do like the tattoo of the circle, turn it purple, and then put it over the one eye. So my boxing guy is, you know, bright red hair, big fucking bushy beard, big black eye. So yeah, you could have a lot of fun with character creators, but yeah, I did not appreciate or enjoy standard Shepherd. I went full angry space pirate renegade, so I made a character accordingly.
Yeah, by the way, Barry said something here which I want to reply to. He goes, looks, it's not that people don't want to play as female characters. It's just that female characters have different animation bone structures and are too difficult to accessorize. And they're also difficult to animate, right? According to Ubisoft.
According to Ubisoft.
Right.
Yeah, even though all the time they use their frigging same walking simulations on both male and females
had female women in their other Assassin's Creed games, but suddenly they couldn't do it for the co-op one. Get the fuck out of here. All right, man. I think that pretty much does it for us. So let's wrap it up, man. Thank you for watching and listening. Leave us a question in the comment section of this episode on YouTube or on Coalition, and we'll answer them on next week's show, man. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco. And tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
I'll see you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Brett Murdoch.
Deuces.
Adam Vale.
Keep watching Lucha.
Brian Manjoma.
If you have not by now, then go play Beyond Good and Evil. It's a really good game.
Nice.
Hey, you're playing it.
Please do.
Yes, and Carlos Romero.
So this is directed to Brett. You don't have to write it down. I'll send you a list. So this is anime that came out between 2000 and 2007. Gurren Lagann, Code Geass, Baccano, Samurai Champloo, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, Full Metal Alchemist, Haibe Renmei, Paranoia Agent, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed and 00, Death Note, Bleach, Naruto, Ergo Proxy, Furikuri, Detroit Metal City, Monster, Spirited Away, Sword of the Stranger, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Full Metal Panic, Inuyasha, Hajime no Ippo, Hellsing, Elfen Lied, Fate Stay Night, Gintama, and Claymore, and there's plenty more. So I suggest, like, there's a lot of stuff to watch.
I've watched almost all of those, actually. Maybe I'm thinking of a different... I'll have to do some checking, because I remember going through a drought.
Oh, that was brilliant. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Later.
Later.
Hey, guys.